June, a budget that has over 700 billion shillings deficit. The government says will be financed through loans. This being the first budget under the Kenya Kwanza regime, has increased by 251 billion shillings compared to the budget of the financial year that is ending, which was 3.39 trillion shillings. Based on the estimates, the government aims to spend 2.5 trillion shillings on recurrent expenditure and 769.3 billion shillings on development expenditure. According to the budget report submitted to Parliament by the chairperson of the Budget Committee, Njoroge, the national government will be allocated 2.25 trillion shillings, while the county government will be allocated 385 billion shillings.
We project to have what we call ordinary revenue, that is all manner of taxes, to a tune of 2.57 trillion Kenya shillings. Around 700 billion is going to development. It is actually precisely 728 billion Kenya shillings. It is going to development projects. Around the same now, we have 385 billion Kenya shillings, which we are sending to counties, up from 370 billion last year. If you do the math there, then you'll see approximately 680 or thereabout. These are approximate figures, which is left as deficit.
In addition, 2.1 trillion shillings out of the 2.25 trillion shillings have been allocated to the executive, while the parliament is allocated 40 billion shillings and the court 22.9 billion shillings. The Auditor General's office has also been allocated 76 billion shillings, while the equalization fund has been allocated 7.8 billion shillings. The education sector has been allocated 27% of the budget, which is approximately 600 billion shillings.
Education is taking up 27% of our budget, and this is around 604 billion Kenya shillings. We have allocated more money than has ever been allocated into roads. As you know, we have commitments for roads, which are already signed. Just imagine, of 900 billion Kenya shillings. That's close to a trillion.
However, among the 700 billion shillings that the government aims to borrow 198.3 billion shillings from foreign financial institutions, while 521.5 billion shillings will be borrowed from local financial institutions in order to finance the budget. KRA has been assigned to collect 3 trillion shillings in this financial year 2023-2024 from 2 trillion shillings in the 2022-2023 financial year, in an effort to help the government face the issues of borrowing and address borrowing. In order to achieve this, President William Ruto has been pressuring KRA to ensure that it implements new policies aimed at ensuring that every Kenyan pays taxes. And Azimio has called on Kenyans to be ready to hold protest if the 2023 proposed finance bill is passed. Led by Chairperson Wycliffe Oparanya and Martha Karua, they insist that the bill can't be saved by amendments made.
We appeal to Kenyans to be on standby and the lookout. In the event they run this through your throats, don't give up, don't surrender. Join us in the next course of action that we will communicate soon. We shall emerge stronger, we shall overcome.
We are reminding Kenyans they are not helpless. The Constitution gives you sovereignty. Let us wait, and if the voices of the people are not heard, people must exercise their sovereignty.
Azimio's Martha Karua has also urged the government to stop profiling Mount Kenya youth as being members of Mungiki.
Stop profiling youth from Mount Kenya. This is meant to curtail any political activity in Mount Kenya. It is meant to cow us as leaders from Mount Kenya and maybe make us afraid of mobilizing. We want to tell you that constitution you opposed is the constitution of Kenya today. We will exercise our rights. We will go to Mount Kenya to discuss the budget like we will go to all other places in Kenya.
And President William Ruto says the government's project to build affordable houses will increase urbanization and create job opportunities. Speaking in Naivasha at the Kenya Urban Forum, Ruto also criticized those opposing his agenda, saying that they don't want Kenyans to live in decent homes. Meanwhile, the president has left the country for a 2-day visit to Geneva, Switzerland. In a statement, State House spokesperson Hussein Mohammed said the president is set to deliver a keynote address at the International Labour Conference in Geneva. Remember, today is Budget Day and the entire Standard Media Group will be bringing you the very latest. Be sure to join in and join us as we have you updated. I'm Dennis Asata. Good morning.
102.5 Spice FM, Kisumu.
You tune into Kenya's biggest conversation. My name is Ramanya.
Amen. Amen.
So 1 hour is over?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
It gets over
Can you imagine
in 20 minutes.
what the big boys have also done?
I'm very proud of myself.
When you understand about partnership in politics, it's like the way marriage is these days. When you're looking for a wife, you're like, oh, you know, maybe you can help me pay for fees as I pay for the rent.
Why should you have a lioness living in your bedroom?
I have to tell you a story. I went for a prayer meeting, which was called for the spouses of candidates for senators and governors. And when I got to the gate, the lady who was the secretary, she refused to, she's telling me, no. Leo tunataka wa mama. Leo ni wa mama. I'm telling her, no. She said, no, sio siku yenu. And I thought, there's a problem here, you know, because if it was a man, but this was a lady.
It will be called First Ladies until you change the name.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Unright. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
If you go out of this country and come back the same person, then you have a problem. Buy land, 1 million. Put it there for 5 years. What's the purpose?
It'll have increased in value.
No, that's the thing. That's darkness. You know, that's an eclipse. You don't do that.
I hope you don't believe that a hustler is a poor person or that all hustlers are poor. I've seen that conversation.
Tell us, who is a hustler?
Who's a hustler? Hustler is a person who is making a living through hard work.
Corruption in Kenya is a political accusation. The people who are actually corrupt are not pointed fingers at.
Kenya is not free. Kenya imeshikwa na mateka. It's under siege.
Have you seen that lodge on Nyeri Road? Very high fence. You can't even
Windows
sleep inside.
up near the ceiling.
Yes. And if you walk there at midnight, you see bats the size of cows.
And when it rains, it doesn't rain on that building.
Yes.
When you're at All Saints and it's raining, it doesn't rain on that building.
The things people will believe.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
When you're impeached, you're impeached. When you're sentenced, you're sentenced.
Madam Chief Justice.
Until the sentence is set aside.
Ukibeba vitu kwa roho utakufa. If you carry things in your heart, you will die.
You've had the luxury of living for 50 years and you cannot still explain yourself. Surely. Oh my God. The reason for which you went to school and then gathered experience, that reason must be paid for.
Oh, right.
Oh, okay.
This level.
Shape up or ship out.
Levels don't change.
No.
Since I'm not shipping up.
You know my business partner here.
Shipping out.
Are we talking about the sheep in the bathtub? Or
the sheep man.
One of Talam used to tell us a story of they were in school and they've been told to write composition about a sheep. His classmate raises a hand. Teacher, are you talking about a sheep or a sheep goat?
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
Good morning. It's Thursday and the rains came down last night. We are likely to see that it's going to be a crazy morning because some of the roads still slippery and we'll just have to wait and see what it opens up to be. A little bit of action coming in on Njoroge Road. We're seeing that coming into the city already and also looking at some traffic coming off the Thika Superhighway. But again, it's still early. Let's see what happens through Thursday. Where are you this morning? Let us know. Spice FM KE on Twitter and keep things moving this Thursday.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latif, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
15th of June, 2023, halfway through the month. And like that, it's budget day. And like that, we'll be gone to a new year. Ndu.
Yes.
Otherwise.
Got to.
Uko at least.
Well, at least niko hapa. What more?
Hey.
Who could ask for anything more?
But why should you?
Good morning.
Good morning to you, City.
Yes, Eric.
How's it for you?
It is cold.
Quite. This thing, bwana.
Yikes.
Hey.
We need to send a memo. Pigeon. Messenger pigeon.
You know, you enter
too much.
Think that the studio is cold. Then you plonk your ear on the seat. God.
Wow.
Then you touch the table.
You don't know whether you should stand up. I mean, that you're conflicted. Remove your hands from the table. No. Man, this is cold. Then there are people who live in this cold throughout the year.
Well, even colder than this, man. This is not... Last, this is 17 degrees. You know that? It's 17 degrees, what you're feeling here. Now, imagine the people who are living sub-zero temperatures.
I have never been to any of those countries with sub-zeros.
Well, I mean, you can imagine when it's the winter months.
I haven't been to those countries, when it is winter.
Yeah, in the winter months,
I've
it's 4 degrees on a warm day.
Warm.
Yeah.
Warm.
And so now when it gets to zero, I'm telling you, when the snow is coming down and it's cold, you feel as though, I think your body even gets to the point whereby it doesn't feel the cold anymore. It somehow now adapts because my experience is it's like glass. Now, if you live in the tropics like we do, and you visit a nation that where it snows and they have sub-zero, it is like an extraterrestrial experience.
Buana.
It's like glass is cutting into your skin. The wind is blowing. There's rain. There's snow. You don't.
What kind of life is that, surely?
If you don't wear thermal wear, that's why you won't survive. If you don't have heated homes, you won't survive.
The closest I got to that was in Cape Town. South Africa has winters.
Yes, South Africa has winters, but even them, the winters don't go below 3 degrees.
It's tropical winters, from what you're telling me.
Yeah.
And I couldn't believe that anything could be that cold.
You see the way it's dark now here?
Imagine.
You see the way it's dark, like here in Paris, or it is 5 o'clock, 4 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, it's like this.
Is this dark?
Yes.
And people live there.
But in the summer, the sun is out at 8 p.m., 9 p.m. Confusing, really.
How can you now? If you're a practitioner of night running, how can you actually?
How will you?
How can you play it really effectively?
There you will not survive. Sorry.
Everybody, good morning. Welcome to the show. How you doing? It's Thursday. It's therefore Justice Thursday. And for our Justice Thursday conversation today at 7 a.m., we will be looking at HIV and the law. There's a tribunal called the HIV and AIDS Tribunal.
There is.
Imagine.
There is.
Very many questions around that, but the chairperson of this tribunal, Caroline Mboku, and a member of the tribunal called Professor Walter Jaoko will be joining us at 7 a.m. so that we can understand what they do at the HIV and AIDS Tribunal and how we can access justice through that route. 8 a.m. So Uganda the other day passed the Anti-homosexuality bill and it was signed into law. It's now an Anti-homosexuality Act 2023, right? Where those who call themselves human rights campaigners and all other campaigners are up in arms. We'll be joined by two of them. One is Gilbert Mitula. He's an advocate of the High Court, and Dorcas Gitonga, who's also an advocate and a program officer, sexual reproductive health rights at Kelin. What's Kelin in Full City?
I used to know. Give me time, I will tell you. I used to know offhead.
Kelin.
Then now I only know Kenya.
You only know Kenya and Lin.
I used to know because I did a lot of work with the Kelin. I used to work with the Kelin. Yes. Tambia wewe.
Tasema?
Ngojea tu.
The Kenya Legal and Ethical Issues Network. Kenya Legal and Ethical Issues Network on HIV and AIDS. Kelin.
Okay. Network I've gotten. HIV and AIDS iko wapi hapo kwa Kelin?
Inakuja after networks.
After network.
Kenya Legal and Ethical Issues. I think it should be the other way around. Kenya Ethical and Legal Issues.
Kenya Legal and Ethical Issues.
In network of Kenya.
In HIV and AIDS.
And in HIV and AIDS.
How are you this morning?
In Kenya. Good morning.
No, are you okay?
Yes.
Sambamba.
Sambamba.
Thank you very much.
Shambamba.
Oh, it's Shambamba.
Hapana. Iko tu sambamba. Iko tu at least. So, let's take this break. It's 17 minutes after 6. If you are online, let us know where you're locked in from. We're already live streaming on YouTube and Facebook. It's up, and I can see there are people who are already saying good morning from wherever. We'll be doing that thing shortly. First, let's take a look at the weather forecasts.
Cloudy conditions and a bit of a drizzle in parts of Nairobi, highs of 24 and lows of 15 today. It's cloudy at 15 in Nakuru, highs of 28, and we'll see highs of 23 in a mostly cloudy Nyeri at 15. It's 13 and cloudy in Eldoret, highs of 22 and lows of 13 and 23, and partly cloudy in Mombasa, highs of 30 and lows of 23. Today we'll see highs of 29 in Malindi, where it's currently 25. It's 20 and clear in Kisumu as the sun comes up. 28 will be the high and lows of 19, and it's going to be cloudy this morning in Kakamega. 27 will be the high and lows of 16. Cloudy conditions in Kampala at 17, highs of 28, and Dar es Salaam will see highs of 30 and lows of 21. It's 9 degrees and mostly clear in Johannesburg, highs of 19, and we'll see highs of 28 in Lagos today. It's going to be clear through the morning in Kinshasa, highs of 32 and lows of 23. Looking at a mostly sunny Beijing going into afternoon Thursday, we'll see highs of 37 and lows of 22. It's 16 and cloudy in Paris and 14 and cloudy in London. 18 and clear Wednesday night in New York. Coming into Thursday, we'll see highs of 23 and lows of 15.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right.
All right.
94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Gashiori. Did I get it right? He's saying good morning, and he's tuning from the UK today. Brian Otieno says, tune in from Sharjah in the UAE. It's 41 degrees. Yani, it is 7:20 in the morning.
And it's 41 degrees.
It's 41 degrees.
Very good.
I'm telling you. What's going to happen by the time it gets to noon? Good morning, the team. What a wonderful team. Asante Sana James Mwangi. Tony Mohoho says, good morning, my people. Good morning, sir. And in from the great Minneapolis, that's where Davis is this morning. Agnes Akinyi this morning at dawn says, good morning, guys, this budget day. Brian Otieno says, it's better to take a break from Kenya. Why not? Why? Sophia Damari says, good morning from Abu Dhabi. Azaria says, the roaring situation room, morning tuning from Texas, ready to protest to Washington, D.C. Kenya High Commission to shut down the helpless office. Enough is enough, waiting for Baba announcements. What happened?
Shutting down the High Commission.
In Washington. Okay.
Or the embassy in Washington.
Yeah.
Yeah.
George says Ndo. Okay, now you've called me Ndo. Now in my language I want to say Ndo. Ndo means sorry. Ndu is something else.
Ndu means?
Life. Now when you say Ndo,
so not a sorry life.
Not a sorry life. So it's Ndu. Ndo is sorry. Okay, so anyway, yeah, he says I'm right. NDU.
Without a H at the end.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
He says actually the days are longer in the UK and the nights are shorter. So that's why you have the sun up still at 9 p.m, right?
Mm-hmm.
Brian Otieno is tuned in this morning. Kyla Owang is also tuned in. And Duncan says, I locked in from the finance bill 2023 clause hell. Oh, wow. Leschan Sanchez says, good morning, tuned in from Kisumu. Soulful Meditation says, good morning. It's 7 a.m. in Abu Dhabi and already 40 degrees. Yeah, folks are going to have a tough time this morning, it would appear, with the heat. Good morning, tuning from Copenhagen. Good morning from Nakuru, eager for today's conversation. Top of the morning, Ndu CT and Eric. Over from Kileleshwa. Roger Mkwama. Willis Koyi says, good morning, CT specifically.
Good morning.
Thank you.
Roger specifically.
No, it's Willis.
Willis Roger specifically.
Okay.
Wait, they're two different people.
Pato Mwema says, good morning, tuning from the USA, Kansas. Thank you for your show, great guys and lady. I need to ask you if you're working hard enough to bring in people who owe Kenyans money. Audience debt. Okay. Tuning from the Kenyan Embassy in Tehran, Iran. Say hello all through Spice FM. Good morning Team Spice. Mosheri from New Jersey. Tuning in this morning. Keep up the good work. Asante Sana. Other people online this morning, we see you. Sky Karish, good morning. Tuning from Nairobi. Kip Kirui Ilarios. Good morning, my people tuning from Homa Bay. The county of endless potential. Good morning, ready and raring to go at the grind. Have a good day. That's Pauline Shiro. All right, guys, thank you for joining us this morning. Karibuni sana.
City?
Right. He who was busy with two things drowned.
He who was busy with two things drowned.
Yes. But before we get to the proverb, I thought I would just educate you this morning.
Okay.
Remember, the president of Zambia is called...
Hichilema.
Yes.
Huh?
Hichilema.
Huh? Hakainde.
Yes. But he does have a Gilbert name.
He has a Gilbert name?
Yes. His Gilbert name is Sammy.
Oh, Samuel or just Sammy? Like Jack. You know Jack is a short form of John. Anyway.
How Jack is short for John? I've never
That is Jack is a short of John.
I
yes,
swear.
it is.
It is.
And what's the short of Jackson?
Jackie. Okay, you think that's funny? How is Ted short for Edward?
Yeah. How is Bill short for William?
I'm the deputy. By the way, the deputy is a lady, the vice president. Please understand.
Oh, it's a lady?
Yes, and she is actually a teacher, or should you say former teacher.
That's why you like it.
Yes, of course. Teachers and I being one such person, Mutale, Nalumango, otherwise known as WK. Yes, she's known.
Oh, Walumango.
Yes, that's her name, yes. Her Gilbert name is Whitner.
Sorry, what?
Yes, Whitner. Witner.
Oh, Whitner, okay.
Yes.
All right.
And she has a middle name, Kapembwa.
Whitner Kapembwa.
I need you to understand that you know these people well. So
that's where the K comes in.
Yes, that's where the K comes in. WK, you've got it.
They're like people. I know why you like her. WK, CT.
Teacher, mwalimu. Right, now back to the proverb. He who was busy with the two things drowned.
Was he on the ocean when he was busy with two things? In a river, on a boat?
No, even in a bathtub. He who was busy with the two things drowned. Basically, there was water. Because you cannot drown if there's no water.
How many water bodies are there in Zambia?
You are talking about the lake.
Large water bodies.
Large water bodies, like lake.
So your falls ile tremendous.
Ile kubwa ile na iko river pia mingi.
So apart from that one big river called the Zambezi, how many water bodies where the water is actually just
sitting in one place, staring at you,
where somebody can drown?
So they're drowning. When they talk about drowning, for them the perspective is river. Drowning in the river
on the edge of the falls and you topple over. Or
Actually,
doing two things,
if you have
taking
a big
selfie, and I'm sorry.
Well, if you consider the size of the river and you consider that the water in rivers is fast moving, the likelihood of drowning that river is fairly greater.
Okay.
Yes. So as for water bodies beyond Zambezi, Zambezi in terms of girth, in terms of reputation, supersedes and transcends every other water body. Yes. It's like asking me now, we know because we're in Kenya, Lake Victoria is what everyone speaks about, Sindio. But we have Lake Rudolph, which is now Lake Turkana. It was called Rudolph before.
I was going to say, what?
Just because yes. We have Lake Naivasha, in case you didn't know.
We have many lakes in Kenya.
Very many. I've just when you had just started, I just continued.
Those great lakes.
Yes, there's Elementaita. Okay. So
Natron. No?
Yes.
Natron. It's called
yes,
Natron.
there is. Yes. So, but unless you are keen, you will only know Lake Victoria.
I am looking at the map of Zambia.
What are you seeing?
There is Lake Mweru.
How big is that lake?
Who knows? Lake Bengweulu.
Okay, how big is that lake?
There's a tip of Lake Tanganyika that turns into it.
Yes.
Lake Kariba.
But Lake Tanganyika is sizable.
But it's only a tip in Zambia. Just the tip. There's Lake Ndu. Shut up. Lake.
That's an interesting lake. It has a name similar to Ndu's.
Yes. Several buena.
I don't understand this animosity.
And you had said nothing.
Can you imagine?
You hadn't even begun to say anything.
Nothing.
But the person who had spoken was myself. Yes.
So the lakes there's Lake Bangweulu, Lake Kariba, Lake Mweru, Lake Tanganyika. So when they talk about drowning, they know a thing or
bodies.
Two.
Thank you, sir.
You know a thing or two.
Or you could, just focus on the thing that you're doing so you don't get gobbled up by too much other information.
Hi, let's look at the headlines.
Inside Ruto's budget. Today is budget day. It is usually the second Thursday in June. And that is where we are now. All eyes on President Ruto's top money man as he presents his maiden budget in Parliament this afternoon, even as focus remains on soaring cost of living and political battle to meet expectations of hustlers, a demographic at the heart of the head of state campaign into power last year. The budget looks like 3.6 trillion, the total amount of President Ruto's first budget, a 300 billion shilling increase from Uhuru Kenyatta's last 3.3 trillion estimates. So it's going to be an interesting day, is it not? It is. The president's aide is gunning for a top global job in shipping and logistics. Dr. Karingithi is seeking to be I believe is executive director of the International Shipping and something maritime.
She's been in that industry for a very long time.
38 years is what is said.
Can you imagine?
Well, she started working at KPA.
She's the founding director of the Maritime Authority.
Yes. She saw the college. She began as a lawyer working for Kenya Ports Authority and rose through the ranks and specialized in this particular area.
So she worked at KPA.
Yes.
And then now specialized into understanding maritime and maritime affairs.
Yes.
Very good. Currently, she's the advisor on maritime and blue economy.
Yes. She has been if there's someone who's been in that field continuously, oddly enough, not very many people have postgraduate papers in maritime law. One such person is a certain gentleman, a justice by the name of Eriko Gola. What is the name that they call him? Chief Judge. I think there's a term of that sort. This is someone who's elected every 3 years by the judges to be like...
He's the head of the judges.
Yes. Now he also
it's like the president of the Supreme Court.
Yes,
the knee of the High Court now.
Yes, but his bosses of the judges.
Yes, the High Court judges.
High Court judges, not judges in general, just High Court.
High Court judges.
Because there's the appellate court. Those are they also have their president.
Yes.
Okay. Yes, he also studied maritime law.
All right.
That's his postgraduate work was in maritime law.
Very good. Very good. Anyway, other headlines. Nation.
On the Nation, NHIF cancels 7 billion shilling tender after a nation expose contract for civil servants cover. So we'll look at that.
Okay, go on.
Yeah.
Okay, go on.
Nuruddin Haji held the Holy Book yesterday and swore to do several things. There was also the expectation that the president put before him, and we'll look at details of that. On the back page of The Nation, we're looking at agencies clash on placing of civilian workers in the National Police Service. How can it be? Somebody who is not a police officer, did not go to Kiganjo, now wants to work in NPS? No. The SM said no. Others say, why not?
National Police Service Commission.
Yes.
They're saying that should only have police officers.
Yes. There's a faction that has asked Parliament to stop the PSC and the Interior Ministry from appointing and deploying civilians to hold positions or act in offices in the National Police Service. If you're not a police officer,
if you're not a police officer, don't
should not
be
work
in the police
service.
Yeah, not the commission.
Not the commission. Okay. I'll give you the details of that story, but just know they don't want civilians. They want just police officers. Did not pass through Kiganjo? Sorry, cannot work here. All right, looking at other stories here. Kenya Kwanza wins House vote as Azimio mulls over court action. Okay. Dilemma. This dilemma, remember I was telling you about the Shakahola thing yesterday?
Yes.
It's an issue. It's becoming a bigger issue now. Of course, there are two things now that we're looking at. There are those bodies that continue to be recovered. Shall I go into that story? No, maybe I'll wait till after the break. But dilemma as Mackenzie Church faithful extend fast in custody and centers.
Okay, sitting.
Yes, please.
Did your guy do like that?
My guy did exactly like that. Today, I was very careful not to take two newspapers of the same kind.
Okay.
Of the same gender.
Tell us what's on the Star, and then I'll tell you what's on the Business Daily.
Yes, top right-hand corner. Somber mood as family, friends mourn Mudi Awori's daughter. Mudi Awori's daughter did pass away some times back.
Yeah.
Yes, this is a story on page 7. Condolences to the family. Visits. President has been hosting dignitaries and clerics. Report. State House spent 8.5 million shillings daily on hospitality.
That's what?
Let me just repeat it. State House spent 8.5 million shillings daily on hospitality.
Okay.
Almost 1.5 billion gobbled up by Kenya Kwanza administration. So this is on page 4 and 5. Then on the right-hand side, there's a picture of Nuruddin Haji holding something that looks like a copy of the Quran, smiling broadly. To Haji, use your intelligence skills to deliver. Okay, hard hit. Big blow to betting sugar importers and media in new budget. Right.
Betting, sugar importers, media.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Not to be left out. The story is on page 6. We'll look at that in greater details.
Okay.
Yes.
Let me tell you what's on the big headline of the Business Daily. Budget squeezes salaried workers in a bid to lift hustlers. The KK administration has hit salaried workers and the middle class hard in its search for the 211 billion shillings in additional taxes to fund its first 3.6 trillion shilling budget, further squeezing incomes that are under pressure from high inflation. That's the story there. Looking at a CS Jogona Dungu, who has termed his first budget environment as a perfect storm. Small headline. Equity snaps up Rwanda Bank in a 6.7 billion shilling deal. Equity Group is set to acquire a controlling stake in Rwandan Bank in a 6.67 billion shilling deal, marking the latest in a series of deals that have seen Kenyan banks nearly double their profitability in the East African region in just a year. Other small headlines, the ticker headlines: MPs bar push for an all-powerful KRA. Finance and National Planning Committee rejected attempts to create an all-powerful Kenya Revenue Authority by dropping 3 proposals by the Treasury to strengthen the taxman's armor. How a Chinese firm registered units to evade 1 billion shilling in taxes. KRA is in court to freeze money in 3 bank accounts belonging to several Chinese companies, which have allegedly been used to evade tax amounting to more than 1 billion in the last 3 financial years. And microfinances hit SMEs with up to 32% interest rates. We'll look at those stories in greater detail shortly. First, let's take a look at traffic. It's 24 minutes to 7. If you'd like to get a copy of this week's Nairobian, wait for tomorrow. It'll be out on the streets, and you can then get access to it as well online, any day, every day, from wherever you are across the globe. epaper.standardmedia.co.ke. Access the Standard, access the Nairobian.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Bro, the game is about to start. Let's go. Yeah. But just give me a minute, man. Malize. What's up? Who are you chatting with? I'm just filing my returns, then we bounce. Because I hope you remember the deadline is June 30th. The game will start, banner. Where it doesn't take time. And yep, I'm done. That was fast. Show me how you've done yours, because I don't want to pay any penalty. Just log into itax.kra.go.ke and file your returns. And if you don't know how to, just go to KRA's YouTube page and watch a tutorial. It's that easy. Allah, filing returns is easier than cooking. Easy peasy, say.
Kenya Revenue Authority reminds all PIN holders to file their 2022 tax returns on or before 30th of June 2023. For assistance, call 0711 099 or email callcenter@kra.go.ke. You can also visit any of the KRA service centers or any Huduma center countrywide. Kenya Revenue Authority.
Onjogo Road is where most of it is happening this morning as you're trying to get towards the City Stadium roundabout. On towards Landis, you'll be fine. And at the Kamkunji roundabout, you'll also not do too badly as you're getting into the city. The Thika Superhighway just past the Utali College, heading out towards Muranga Road or then towards Wangari Maathai. That has started to build up quite so, and also seeing traffic on Kiambu Road this morning. Let's look at the Northern Bypass, which feeds off onto Kiambu Road. There's traffic that is being diverted from Committee Road, then towards the Northern Bypass, out onto Kiambu Road, and we'll see all of that coming into Muthaiga Square. It's going to happen. So if you're not out, now might be a good time to do so. Other parts of the city looking pretty good. Coming off James Gishuru, you're fine, as you are on Waiaki Way. The Red Hill Link Road looks pretty good as well. You want to use that, if you want to enjoy some scenery this morning. Not necessary because there's no traffic, at least not for now. So now is the time. Later might not be that way. Let's talk, however. Spice FM KE on Twitter.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
So there's a dilemma. Dilemmas are not always good things. Mackenzie Church faithful extend their fast in custody. They've said, even if you've arrested us, we are still fighting for the cause and we are fasting to make heaven. The state is in a quandary now following revelations that both victims rescued from Shakahola forest and suspects arrested alongside Pastor Paul Mackenzie are fasting in police custody and rescue centers. All right. So, those who were arrested for having been suspected of having to do something with all of this are in custody with Paul Mackenzie. The others who were rescued from the forest area are in rescue centers. All right, so let's make that distinction. And of course, trying to be nursed back to health. All of them have said, you guys think that because you've arrested us, we will stop. No, we are still fasting. Yesterday, the court was told that 16 people detained in various police stations in Kilifi County had stopped eating on the 4th of June. Raising concerns that police stations may not be the safest place to hold them. Some of the 16 were visibly weak, barely able to stand or walk on their own. The state confirmed that only Mr. Mackenzie and Smart Mwakalama have eaten. Do you remember that Mackenzie has been asking for food? Meanwhile,
Him is eating. And his deputy.
Meaning, I wish therefore to assume that his place in heaven is assured.
Yeah, he doesn't need to fast to get to heaven. God has already told him, you don't worry, just bring all this.
No, there was a schedule.
Oh, them first.
There was a schedule. Oh. So his time has not yet come.
For fasting?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
There was a schedule. Tunafuata mutaratara.
So, according to that, so that's now why you understand that they've been eating. So them, they don't have any problem. Mr. Frederick Karimi and another had to be carried from the police van to the courtroom by guards. Once in the courtroom, Karimi and 4 others lay on the floor because they could not sit by themselves. Can you imagine the level of weakness that is being experienced here? That they cannot even sit up even while on the floor. 2 days ago, the government had filed an urgent request to transfer 65 victims from the rescue center where they had been since early May to Shimolatewa prison, where they could be forced to eat.
That's torture. That's euphemism for torture.
We are facing the possibility of people losing their lives. We want the court to intervene to save lives. This is the basis of our application, according to Senior Prosecutor Jami Yamina. Our fear is that if we do not deal with this matter now, we will not have the defendants. As in, we won't even have them. They will not be here. And now, it's a court case. So now if you need a defendant, and the defendant does not exist literally because they've died from hunger, what case do we have? So then they're looking at the point of view, can we feed these people so we can have a case? We're not even talking about physiological benefits. Yamina's colleagues Victor Owiti urged the court to prioritize the application to transfer the suspects to prison where forced feeding will be enforced. Now, so again, there are 2 sets of people here. There are victims from rescue centers. They want to be taken to Shimolatewa. There are also suspects that are in jail, not prison, and they're refusing to eat. So now all of them, if we move them to Shimolatewa, we can now force them to eat.
What is forcing them to eat?
Open your mouth, pack food inside. I don't know, man.
And why? What's it about Shimolatewa that would make that forcing
what happens
conducive?
at Shimolatewa that cannot happen at
the rescue center
or in jail?
Yeah,
I really don't understand.
That's torture.
Lock them in some dungeon somewhere and keep
they
their
will
mouths open.
They will kill them, and then come and say we tried to make them eat.
So. At the same time, one Mr. Kamora and Karaoke withdrew from the case, citing frustration and intimidation and threats from the prosecution. So maybe there's your case. To say that the defendants are fasting is ridiculous, according to one Mr. Karaoke, who is the who are the defense lawyers. Shanzu Senior Principal Magistrate Yusuf Shikanda says there was need to take interim measures. I don't know what is happening, but we need the accused alive. The magistrate directed that the suspects be remanded in Malindi GK prison pending the hearing of the application. He also ordered that the weak suspects be taken to hospital. The case will be heard on the 21st of June. We need them alive. If not, there's no case. So feed them so that we can have a case. It's just gets stickier and messier every day. And we also saw the numbers yesterday coming out of Shakahola. I believe there was an additional, 13 bodies that were recovered yesterday, and the numbers just continue to rise. There is still a clarion call to have some kind of timeline, some kind of plan for this thing, because it doesn't look good. It does not look good at all. 15 bodies exhumed yesterday. Total death toll now at 318. Arrests are 36. Rescues are 95. 19 have been identified by families. 613 are reported missing. The exhumation continues today.
Way. This one is this one? Okay. So, finance bill manenos, people went before the National Assembly Committee on Finance and National Planning with several petitions. The committee listened, considered some, made some adjustments on some, and others they thought, okay, this one, as much as we hear you, we don't agree with you, and so we'll not make any adjustments. One of those that they listened and they did not agree was on a requirement now that you must file all your returns accompanied by invoices and receipts which are on e-teams. Okay? So if you're coming at the end of the year and you're making your you're filing your returns and you're saying you spent money buying 1, 2, 3, 4, you must have accompanying e-teams invoices, right? That is ETR invoices. If there is no accompanying ETR invoice, forget it. And that accompanying ETR invoice, the person who issued you that invoice must also have filed and they correspond. If those things don't match, forget about it. Okay? Now, the big issue was that it's all your expenditures, all your trading. There are big companies that went to the committee and said, you see, look, should the bill pass, large firms that supply to the MSMEs would shun them because they'll be limited to deal with only businesses that comply with e-teams. Many stakeholders who appeared before the committee during its public engagement forums urged the committee to delete or amend that particular clause. It will negatively impact the mama mboga, they said, and small-scale grocers and the informal sector. It's also not clear the grounds on which KRA will exempt certain persons from the requirement to obtain the electronic tax invoice. They argued that corporate and commercial law firm Njoroge and Kana urged the committee to consider that small businesses cannot afford to procure the electronic tax devices. The committee observed that e-teams was in place and KRA would provide administrative guidelines to clarify the issues raised on implementation of this system. The committee rejected the proposal because the use of electronic tax invoices is meant to enhance compliance and seal revenue leakage. That's what the committee's argument was. You see, KRA is rolling out this electronic tax system so that they seal loopholes and they make sure that everybody is complying. Now we say that no. You, because you deal with Mama Mboga, let Mama Mboga. No, let it stay here. Let KRA find a way of making sure that Mama Mboga is able to get an e-teams. Remember now, e-teams is also electronic. You don't have to buy the gadget. You can just set it up on your phone or your laptop. But it's a long process. Guy, you have to carry your laptop, go to KRA for them to install the thing and configure it to that one laptop. Should that one laptop break down, get a new one, go to KRA, they undo the other one and do this one. Story mainly. It can only be on one machine, can you imagine?
Seamless operation.
Hi. Yeah. City, you tell us now.
I'm looking at a story on page 9 of the Star. Fear blankets Mpeketoni on 9th anniversary of massacre. Okay.
It's been 9 years.
Yes. This takes us back to the 15th of June. It is the 15th of June.
It is.
Yes. 2014. This is where 90 people died. Okay, they were killed in attacks by Al-Shabaab because they're the ones who claimed responsibility. And subsequently, there were raids in Kibaoni, Witu, Hindi, and other villages in Boni Forest and on the border of Lamu and Somali. Why have I chosen this story? I was delighted when I saw my fellow Kenyan breaking world records just this last week. Okay? It was delightful.
Yes.
You read the news, you see the clip, you see the clip is not enough. Let me see the
whole thing.
The whole race. Okay? And she was feted. But it also brought to my mind how it is we have forgotten the trailblazers, people who began this particular journey and brought Kenya to where we are now and where we are acclaimed to be the masters and mistresses of middle distance running, people who trailblazed. The gentleman called Henry Rono. Henry Rono broke 4 world records in 81 days.
4 in 81 days?
4. The 5,000 meter men's race that he broke. It is reported that he had actually been drunk the night before. But woke up early, ran just to clear, kufungua lock.
Kutoa lock.
Yes. Baada ya kutoa lock, he demolished the field. And I am thinking of the very many things that happen that contribute to some of the things we enjoy on a daily basis, or disasters that we need to look at and are reminded, and we say, this happened, and how quickly we forget.
Yeah.
Now we have Shakahola. As we have Shakahola, somehow the happenings in the Kerio Valley have taken a backstage. And it isn't as though the lives of the people who are affected by what was happening there suddenly got better. It hasn't. But we no longer hear of that particular story. Right now, this backflow that our lakes have had have displaced people. What am I saying? I'm saying that we seem to be running the risk of being a nation that has a very, very short memory. Okay? Something happens, something momentous happens, and every anniversary should be remembered. And if you're talking about lessons learned, the reminder needs to be that which happened on that day, the momentous thing that happened. That ought to be that constant reminder. And when that day arrives or the thereabouts, we need to remind ourselves lest we forget. Because if we don't remind ourselves, we will forget.
That's true.
Does it also play, though, into the hands of the people who perpetrated it?
Yes.
Because they were doing it for maximum publicity.
Yes.
Now you are guaranteeing them that they will be remembered in perpetuity. As long as you commemorate this happened, you'll ask yourself what happened. It will be there was an attack by this particular group of people, and this is what they were looking for.
Yes, it is. But also,
so you're guaranteeing them a place in history.
You do. They already have a place in history. What I want to guarantee is the human interest aspect. When you say 90 people, who are these 90 people? What did they represent? How many were fathers? How many were children? What were their aspirations? What is it that was cut short by this? The event happened, taken, but the individuals ought to be the focus. And I am tying this in with the athletes. Because the thing about athletics, it's an individual achievement. Yes, it's a team effort, training together, but it's the individual who wins. And we remember, but we also forget.
We do.
And we forget people who ran barefooted and did things that no one had done before. No one had. Prior to them doing it, no one had done it before. Now, their task was even greater because they didn't have any trail to follow. And everybody who's come after has a trail to follow. You know this is what was done.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
When we talk about foundations and funds, when we talk about recognition, it needs to be standardized so that we understand that when people achieve certain things, this is how the nation recognizes them.
Yeah. It becomes very clear.
Yes.
That this is what happens.
Yep. 6.9 billion. You like that number?
In relation
it's a small number.
What are we buying?
Whatever it is. Pesa kidogo. 6.9 billion.
Yeah. NHIF cancels tender over irregularities after an expose was
That's
done.
That's a lot.
The National Health Insurance Fund has been forced to eat humble pie and cancel a 6.9 billion shilling tender to provide insurance cover for civil servants and National Youth Service staff after it was irregularly altered. The alteration was exposed in a report published on the 8th of June with the NHIF Acting Chief Executive Officer Samson Kuhora thanking the paper for its vigilance. We take this matter seriously and are fully committed to correcting any lapses in the spirit of maintaining in the spirit of maintaining public confidence in our procurement processes. The cancelled tender number NHIF 035 2022-2023 was for the provision of co-insurance and facilitative insurance services for the group personal accident and work injury benefits for the 120,447 civil servants and NYS employees. Dr. Kuhora announced the cancellation in a notice posted on the NHIF website. And they've said that they've cancelled the tenders basically and thanked everybody for their interest and said, yeah, blah, blah, it's not happening. So they had issued a tender on the 30th of May. They had invited bids for the provision of insurance cover from June 1st to June 30th next year. So June 1st this year to June 30th next year. Follow me so far? With prospective bidders then required to submit their bids by the 24th of June. By the 14th of June, which was yesterday. So also cancelled was the tender for NHIF for the provision of insurance brokerage services and for the provision of co-insurance and facultative insurance services for group life and final expense insurance. All of these were cancelled. Now, they're saying the reason why it looked a little bit fishy was that on the original documents, there was an alteration. And they're saying, where was this? The alteration of the tender document contravenes the Public Procurement and Asset Disposal Act of 2015, which makes it illegal to make changes to a tender document without attaching an addendum. They say it had been manipulated and it was not uploaded on the portal as required by law. Neither was there an accompanying amendment giving reasons as to why there was this alteration. And so it looked as though there was something fishy going on. Now, the amendment affected Part 4 of the tender on technical valuation, where the parameters for the evaluation of the lead co-insurer were changed. And you did not tell us why.
So now, what are they going to do? They've cancelled.
They've cancelled, then we wait. When they're ready
They'll
to
re-advertise.
they'll re-advertise and they'll make sure
And
that
people will
everything meets the
bid
mark.
again.
Yeah.
And somebody who's not happy will leak some dossier again and will be back to square one.
The person who is not happy that they did not get the tender. In the meantime, the insurance for all these groups of people therefore mentioned is in limbo.
You dare not fall sick in the interim.
No. Until they get their ducks in a row, please, you cannot be sick. Because where will you go?
Okay. Higher. Now, Kalonzo Musyoka is the party leader of the Wiper Party.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yes.
You will remember that in 2007, Kalonzo Musyoka was on the ballot. And he told Kibaki and Raila, nitapita katikati yenu. And they laughed. Na akapita katikati.
And he did.
Yes. Now, he was also been observing, in 2013, he supported Raila. In 2017, he supported Raila. In 2022, he supported Raila. And he's been observing. And he saw William Ruto. He says, I must confess that if there's anything I learned from William Ruto, it's the fact that he started campaigning immediately after they took office with Uhuru. Indeed, he started his presidential campaign as if elections were to be held the following day. This is the lesson that Ruto has taught me. So, that means that Kalonzo Musyoka has immediately started his campaigning. Okay? He was speaking in Miumboni Secondary School in Kadhiani constituency, where he was commissioning a dormitory following an invitation by area MP Robert Mboi. He said although he was not on the ballot as a presidential candidate in last year's election, it dawned on him that in order to win the presidency, he needed to launch his campaign as early as immediately after the elections. How many months is it after the elections? It's still immediate.
It's like saying you are pregnant and you give birth to
We must have a strategy to save this country, not for the sake of the Akamba nation alone, but also for the rest of Kenyan citizens who are choking under the high cost of living and punitive taxation. However, he says, in order to have a fair shot at the 2027 election, there must be a very well-constituted and balanced electoral commission. So for that reason, he seems not to be very happy with what Azimio has done so far, with the seeming collapse of the dialogue. Because he says, after the collapse of the talks, we are risking Kenya Kwanza's free hand in picking the next IEBC, which will turn out to be disastrous for us. Because Ruto will now basically be able to have his people, and it will be difficult to beat Ruto in 2027.
Why are fingers always being pointed at the IEBC?
If you don't have your guy there.
Yeah, but then the guy that they have, all these people have their guys.
See, they have their guys. 92 of them disappeared yesterday. Where did they go?
Yes.
They had guys who could speak to them. The question is, where did all these people go? Suddenly you are busy.
Eric,
where were you?
The problem is not these officials we have at the IEBC.
Who's the problem?
The problem is these politicians.
How?
These members of parliament. Where? May I keep asking?
The flip-flopping. We want these changes. The changes are brought into being. They sit for a while. There's something wrong with the very changes that they themselves asked for. And the very people whom they are the ones who elected to be there, suddenly there's something fundamentally wrong with these people. Suddenly.
I'm officially annoyed. I'm officially annoyed. Don't come here and be making noise for people. Then
You're
when it
annoyed,
comes
why?
to the things that you're supposed to be doing in parliament to make sure that some things actually meet the mark, then you disappear. You're busy on a Wednesday afternoon.
Well, you're out on assignment.
Please. Which other
it's not like
assignment
they were there
They should
planting
not come and
onions.
disturb us again tomorrow. They should not come and make noise
actually,
tomorrow.
I do have to plead with you.
They should not come and make noise tomorrow, because then when push comes to shove, when the rubber meets the road, where were you?
I urge you to take a deep breath.
Please
They
do.
should not come and disturb us
It's
again
news
tomorrow.
time. It's 7 a.m.
Spice up your life.
Good morning, this is the news. I'm Dennis Aseto. Treasury CS Ugandan is today expected to present to Parliament the budget estimates for the financial year 2023-2024. President William Ruto's government has proposed a budget of 3.6 trillion shillings for the financial year starting June, a budget that has over 700 billion shillings deficit. The government says will be financed through loans. This being the first budget under the Kenya Kwanza regime has increased by 251 billion shillings compared to the budget of the financial year that is ending, which was 3.39 trillion shillings. Based on the estimate, the government aims to spend 2.5 trillion shillings on current expenditure and 769.3 billion shillings on development, according to the budget report submitted to Parliament by the chairman of the Budget Committee, Njoroge. The national government will be allocated 2.25 trillion shillings, while the county governments will be allocated 385 billion shillings.
We project to have what we call ordinary revenue, that is all manner of taxes, to a tune of 2.57 trillion Kenya shillings. Around 700 billion is going to development. It is actually precisely 728 billion Kenya shillings. It is going to development projects. Around the same now, we have 385 billion Kenya shillings, which we are sending to counties, up from 370 billion last year. If you do the math there, then you'll see approximately 680 or thereabout. These are approximate figures, which is left as deficit.
In addition, 2.1 trillion shillings out of the 2.25 trillion shillings are being allocated to the executive, while Parliament is allocated 40 billion shillings and court 22.9 billion shillings. The Auditor General's office has also been allocated 76 billion shillings, while the Equalization Fund has been allocated 7.8 billion shillings. The education sector has been allocated 27% of the budget, which is approximately 600 billion shillings.
Education is taking up 27% of our budget, and this is around 604 billion Kenya shillings. We have allocated more money than has ever been allocated into roads. As you know, we have commitments for roads, which are already signed. Just imagine, of 900 billion Kenya shillings. That's close to $1 trillion.
However, among the 700 billion shillings that the government aims to borrow, the government will borrow 198.3 billion shillings from foreign financial institutions, while 521.5 billion shillings will be borrowed from local financial institutions in order to finance the budget. KRA has been assigned and asked to collect 3 trillion shillings in this financial year 2023-2024 from 2 trillion shillings in the 2022-2023 financial year in an effort to help the government address the issue of borrowing. In order to achieve this, President William Ruto has been pressuring KRA to ensure that it implements new policies aimed at ensuring that every Kenyan pays taxes. Still matters taxes. Our West Pokot-based reporter Moses Kiraise spoke to the residents there who had this to say on the budget.
Mimi naitwa Benjamin Uponya Ngarasia, mimi mkaaji ya West Pokot County. Niseme nangojea serikali aweke pesa mingi upande ya chini, nyanja ya chini, aweke barabara, achengie manyumba mingi huko, afanye barabara kwa mingi, na achenge shule mingi bande ya chini, atutengee pesa ili hiyo mgogoro ikwishe kwa watoto asome ya Turkana, ya Markwet, ya Opokoti, barabara iwe, Sokotali iwe, ndio mambo ya kuvurugu inaisha.
Janga la njaa ndio inaleta shida huko chini, hasa upande wa maji. Njaa ya mifuko ndio inaleta shida kwa sababu wanachangia maneno ya maji, ndio inatakana itengenezwe, kwa sababu hiyo maji ndio inaleta wale majamii wawili wakutane mahali pale kutafuta chakula ya ng'ombe na maji pia.
Mimi naitwa Eric Mtai Plimo. Kile kitu na expect pesa ziwekwe kwa budget ya kwamba iwako na NPR ambayo inaleta security. Tukiwa na hizo vitu zote zikiandamana, kanisa, health centers na barabara, maendeleo pia ingie huko.
Meanwhile, Azimio has called on Kenyans to be ready to hold protest if the 2023 proposed finance bill is passed. Led by Chairperson Wycliffe Oparanya and Martha Karua, they insist that the bill can't be saved by amendments made.
We appeal to Kenyans to be on standby and the lookout. In the event they run this through your throats, don't give up, don't surrender. Join us in the next course of action that we will communicate soon.
Meanwhile, remember that Standard Media Group Newswire will be bringing you the very latest when it comes to this budget. Be sure to stay with us throughout the day. I'm Dennis Aseto. Good morning.
It's a few minutes after 7 o'clock and traffic has started to build up in different parts. We're looking at the thicker superhighway, thicker than it was before, coming in from the Outer Ring Junction and then beyond that from Kasarani. That's going to continue for some time. Kiambu Road. All the folks who are coming off of the Northern Bypass now using Kiambu Road to get to the CBD, coming towards Muthaiga Square. That's going to pack up as well. Bit of a chokehold traffic has got on James Gishero today, spilling over towards Wayaki Way. It's not bad, though, towards the Red Hill Link Road. There's an option for you to run away from the traffic that is on Wayaki Way. Huru Highway, not doing too poorly right now, coming off of the Nyayo Stadium roundabout. Langata Road is also looking pretty good. The Southern Bypass, not bad either. North Airport Road heading towards the Eastern Bypass and also then moving towards the junction at Outer Ring is where we see the most of it. Some roads still slippery after the night rains, so please be careful whatever it is that you do. And then let us know how it's going in your neck of the woods. We talk on Spice FM, KE on Twitter.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latif, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up,
7 minutes
not down.
after 7 on this 15th
This
day of
is
June
the Situation Room,
2023.
the
Welcome
only
to
way
the
to
second
start
hour of
your
Kenya's
day.
biggest conversation. This is the Situation Room, Spice FM, KTN Home, on YouTube and Facebook, across from the Standard Group Center on Mombasa Road to the world. This is Thursday. It's Justice Thursday. It's also Budget Day Thursday. And on this day of the budget, when we have the CS from the National Treasury going to Parliament to basically give a policy statement on what the government wants to do in the next financial year, we are also talking about closing this financial year, and we also all have a role to play in closing the year and moving into the next one. What's your role? File your tax returns. That's it. You are registered, you have a PIN number, you have a requirement to file your tax returns, either filing nil returns or declaring your incomes and then paying what you ought to pay to KRA. Just do it. It's as simple as going to itax.kra.go.ke. That's itax.kra.go.ke. Log into your account, file the returns, and if you have a challenge, just go to KRA Care on Twitter or KRA_care on Instagram. Talk to them. They'll walk you through it. So on this Justice Thursday conversation, we are joined by two guests in the studio, and they are from the HIV and AIDS Tribunal. One is the chairperson, Caroline Mboku, and a member, Professor Walter Jaoko. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome to the Situation Room. Good to have you both on the show.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Those are the hot seats of the Situation Room. Make yourselves comfortable. Yeah. And as you come in, Prof. Sarit Center in Westlands has been there for 40 years. Did you know that?
I didn't know the exact year, but I know it's been there for a long time.
For a long time.
Yeah, I was a kid.
They are marking their 40th anniversary this month of June. And they want you to go and celebrate with them. Do you ever tell him how?
So between 1 and 2 o'clock every day, and today could be a day where you could go, and I'll tell you one of the outlets that's joining Sarit Center to celebrate these 40 years of fantastic shopping and a great retail experience. It's the Daily Cafe and Bistro, and imagine an oasis in the city is what they're saying. It's opened in Sarit, and for their food, to the service, to their modern designs that create an atmosphere of new and tasteful ways of dining, they have brought us a haven in the city. As you make your way to Sarit at the Karuna Road exit, let their live greenery and open sitting space be your pointer to the restaurant. So Sarit celebrates 40 years every day, 2,040 shillings if you spend, and you could spend it at the Daily Bistro. You then get a chance to spin the magic wheel. You could win a cruise. You could win a car. You could win gym membership. So you could eat at the bistro and then, go to the gym. All wonderful things. 2,040 shillings. We at Spice FM are also saying we're going to celebrate with Sarit. Tell us what you would spend 2,040 shillings on, and you could win a hamper at the end of it. Sarit, your city is 40.
Very good. So Caroline and Prof, karibuni sana. To welcome you to the show, before we begin the conversation about the tribunal, CT has the day's proverb. It's from which country?
Zambia.
Whose
capital is Lusaka.
Whose
president is a gentleman by the name of Hakainde Hichilema. Whose vice president is a lady, and her name is Mutale Nalumango. Now, if you're a Kenyan, you'll ask, okay, we've gotten the African names. Don't they have some of these biblical names? They do. The president's name is Sami, just in case you didn't know. Okay? He's known to be a strict Seventh-day Adventist. Now, his vice president is called Whitner. But since they don't use the names officially, please don't go around calling them by their first name.
Don't call it Whitner. No.
Sammy, no, none of that. Okay?
Just like you don't call ours Joffrey.
Yes, we do not.
We know he's Joffrey, but you call him Riggy G.
Yes.
The proverb?
He who was busy with two things drowned.
He who was busy with two things drowned. Madam Chair, what do you make of this proverb?
Whoa. Yeah, this is indeed the hot set. Ideally, literally, it just means for you to float, you have to be light. So when you are burdened with two things, definitely you'll sink.
It's a good one. Professor Jaoko?
It seems to say you need to be focused. Don't be distracted by the second thing. Otherwise you'll drown.
Yeah.
Focus. Stay focused. Otherwise you drown. City.
Whenever one asks your opinion on a proverb, the typical Kenyan reaction is you think it's an exam. It isn't. This is one of those situations where you can't be wrong. It's your opinion. So if it was being marked out of 20, you'd each get 20 out of 20.
Oh, great.
It's a good welcome to the show, Senior.
Thank you.
Starting on top marks.
Take the value of those points wherever you wish.
Take it to Sarit.
You can redeem them. Okay. Madam Caroline Boku.
Yes.
What is the HIV and AIDS Tribunal?
The HIV and AIDS Tribunal is a court, ideally, but it's quasi-judicial. By quasi-judicial means it's being headed by a board and not a judge or a magistrate. And we handle cases that come to us for people complaining of violations that have been done against the provisions of the HIV and AIDS Prevention and Control Act. We are a board of 7. I sit at the chair. Then I have board member. I have 6 other board members. Yes.
Which law establishes you?
We are established by the HAPCA Act, which is the HIV AIDS Prevention and Control Act.
Okay.
Yes.
Can I just refresh? So essentially, people would come to the tribunal if they have issues of contravention of the Prevention and Control Act.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
In what situations would this come about? Who essentially then would have an issue about contravention of the Act?
Okay. Ideally, the Act is set up to protect the rights of the people who are either perceived to be living with, to be infected, or to be living with HIV and AIDS. So it was brought up so as to protect their rights, their human rights, and especially their right to privacy. that is provided for under Article 31 of the Constitution. And so there are situations that are, as you have mentioned, that can bring them to the court. And the first situation is where under the Act, when you look at Section 13 of HAPCA, I'll call it HAPCA.
Sure.
That is the HIV and AIDS Prevention and Control Act. So under Section 13 thereof, it provides that you cannot be tested of HIV and AIDS without your consent. So it brings about the first issue of consent. So you have to give consent. Then 14 thereof goes and says that the person who tests you must be authorized to do that. So this must be someone who has been trained by the ministry, by the Ministry of Health. And there's the pre-testing and post-testing procedures that need to have happened. And so counseling is a must, the pre-counseling and the post-counseling. And then where Prof and his colleagues come in, so for the doctors who do that, or the institutions that do that, they're not supposed to disclose your status to the public or to anyone apart from you.
To any third party.
To any third party without your authorization. So if you go there with your partner, yes, you can give authorization for the information to be disclosed to the two of you, or for you to get your information by yourself. But then again, there are exceptions to the people who can give consent. And this is for children. The consent is given to, it's the parents who are supposed to give the consent, or the consent to test. And then for people living with disability, that is, but especially mental disability, then this can be given to their guardian or their spouse or their children, depending on who is taking care of them. So if a hospital or an institution decides to divulge your status without your consent, then they are brought to the HIV and AIDS Tribunal, and we will handle it. Then apart from hospitals divulging, there's also instances where perhaps someone knows of your status or thinks that you are positive. Then they go ahead and tackle you head on, maybe in a WhatsApp group or whatever setting. And then they are giving people information, either by saying that you are living with the virus, or you have it, or they just go ahead and say you are taking ARVs. Ideally, that is invasion of your privacy, so they're not allowed to do that. And then again, in situations like, employment, an employer is not supposed to terminate your services solely based on the fact that you are living with HIV, or just discriminates you based on your, goes ahead to discriminate you based on your status. Then again, even in schools, because when you go to these institutions, they're supposed to treat you with dignity. So you're not supposed to be discriminated against based on your status. So we've seen, especially the children living with HIV who go to high school, they have their ARVs that they take on a daily basis. So most of them carry them during opening days. So sometimes the teachers might decide to handle the student based on the medication that they have brought, or the matrons. So they also need to be protected. So where there is ideally invasion of your privacy based on your status, then you can come to the tribunal. We've also seen cases where, assuming a lady has gone to give birth, or a lady has been taken to hospital, and then routine checks are done, then instead of the doctors divulging the status to her, they divulge to the partner. So ideally, that is not right, because it's the lady who is the patient and not the husband. So you cannot tell the husband unless you first of all tell the wife, and for her to give consent for you to tell the husband. So those are some of the issues around HAPCA.
Many issues, Doc. On the issue of disclosure and third parties, right? I'll bring in one example: insurance. So many insurance companies would require that at least you undergo some tests. And then the insurance companies also have a list of facilities where they feel like you can go for tests. And in many cases, you find that the people who go for such tests, the results are first passed on to the insurer. And in fact, in many instances, even the person doesn't get the result.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, these are the issues that we address, because ideally what should happen, you as a client of the insurance company, they should get your consent. And they should tell you that the requirement of this is that you have a HIV test. You will require to give consent, and then you'll be tested and all that. So you go to the doctor well knowing that this is a requirement, that you should have a test. And then you have a choice whether you will go with that or not. And now what has happened in many insurance companies, they have a requirement that below a certain amount of policy cover that you're taking, you don't need the HIV test. So there are people who then opt to take the cover that is below the requirement for the HIV test. But if it's going to be done, it has to be done with their consent. You have to get pre-test counseling and you have to get post-test counseling.
Is it not a violation of the law for the insurance company or anybody to require you to disclose your status to them?
Yeah, that is a legal issue. And the chair, I'm so glad I came with the chair, because she is a lawyer, and I'm going to refer that to her.
Yes. Ideally, that one is provided for under Section 30 of the Act. And it says, it actually allows insurance. It actually says insurance are not supposed to get your HIV status if you do not want to divulge. So when you don't have to divulge, it says that the insurance companies can come up with a policy for a certain amount and say that for the policy, say you're taking a policy of 3 million. Say for the policy of 3 million, you do not have to divulge your status. So yes, the other tests will be done, but the HIV test will not be done. But if you're to take, say, a policy of 5 million, then the insurance has a right. It's allowed. That is an exception now under the Act, where it says that for a certain now the additional policy, then it is a requirement. So by the time you are going to get that policy, you will be told that your HIV status needs to be known. Now, they're not supposed to not give you the policy solely based on your HIV status. So if you find out that they have denied you based on your HIV status, then that is not right. But for purposes of them knowing, then it is an exception under the law.
Where do you draw the line? There's that thing of not denying you services based on your HIV status, and then there's the other small print of pre-existing conditions.
So ideally now it comes back to the insurance coming up with policies that are compliant with the law. And the law is saying, come up with two products, where one, you don't tell these people to do what, where one, you don't tell these people to give their status, to disclose their status. And on the other one, you can ask them to disclose their status, but do not deny them the service based on the status. So it's now upon the patient to come and say, I was denied this service based on my status.
If patients who do not even test positive for HIV and who have insurance cover and who actually discover they have a condition on the day they go to hospital, prior to that, they didn't know. And when it comes to claiming, the insurance tells them that this is a pre-existing condition. Pre-existing means I knew it before I took the cover. That is my understanding of it. If I go to hospital for one thing and I'm told I also have something else, and then the insurance cover is then now limited under the clause that this is a pre-existing condition. That's scenario one. Scenario two, if you are going to take an insurance and you're asked to go to see a medical practitioner or you go to a lab, it's their lab. They're the ones who tell you to go there. Those results are not shown to you, but they're shown to the insurer. What makes you think that once they have your blood sample, they cannot take an HIV test? And what makes you think that the insurance company may not actually have the knowledge that you have an HIV, that they know your HIV status. And they don't have to tell you that they're discriminating against you. They will find all sorts of reason to ensure that the services that are due to you are not there.
Yeah.
You have no recourse because you are not privy to the results.
To the information.
Yes.
And that which you don't know.
Yeah, so everybody, each party has a responsibility. So, for example, the insurance, the labs that the insurance use, they have a responsibility. And if they cannot say, if they do a HIV test without disclosing to you, they cannot say it was the insurance company that made us do it. So they'll be both charged. One, for the insurance company asking for this lab to do a test without you knowing. And first of all, that lab, according to the Act, the lab is responsible. You remember, the chair has said that it has to be done by a qualified person. That lab needs to know that for a HIV test to be done, you have to have pre-test counseling and post-test counseling. So if they're going to do a test without you knowing, then they have broken the law
already
because they have not pre-test counseled you. So each of you will be liable, and so it's good that we have this opportunity, and hoping some of the people who operate labs are also listening to this. Labs as private labs and also labs within the hospitals, that you cannot do a HIV test on somebody who has not given you consent to do it, and you must pre-test counseling. Now, on the issues of a pre-existing condition, that is a bit tricky because the Act specifically says that on the basis of HIV, you should not be discriminated based on that test. But this Act is so specific for HIV tests. We know that you'll be discriminated against, for example, if you have a kidney problem or if you have some other issues that have been listed as a pre-existing condition. Now, we know that we don't have an Act that covers people in those other areas, but
and
for
the other
HIV specifically, we have this.
Because there'll be opportunistic infections and diseases that come as a result of your HIV status. Now, they can play around those ones.
Yes.
And there is no limit to pre-existing conditions that can be brought about by HIV.
I imagine you all have a very sticky, many sticky situations, and then that you'd have to then deal with and adjudicate over. Now, some of these things that we've established, so we're saying it doesn't matter what it is. When an HIV test is going to be administered, the law states that there must be pre-counseling and there must be post-counseling. It doesn't matter under the circumstance.
Pre-test counseling.
Pre-test counseling, post-test counseling. It must happen. It doesn't matter the situation or the circumstances for which this test is being carried out. Yes? All right. Now, blood donation happens. Come in, give blood, let's go quickly. We know also that screening takes place for this blood in order for it to be banked or in order for it to be used. When you go to donate blood, nobody counsels you. Nobody counsels you after the fact. They are going to take your blood. They will test it for HIV. We know this. How many people donate blood on a daily basis? How many of those people are counseled?
So ideally, that is wrong. They need to cancel because the Act actually says that when you're donating, be it blood or body tissues, it's presumed that you have given consent for it to be tested. So with the presumed consent, yes, you've given the presumed consent, but if at all they're going to, which they are definitely going to do, to check for the HIV virus, then the pre and post counseling should take place.
So today, anyone can actually get up and say,
I donated blood.
I donated blood. I know for a fact that they tested this blood. Assumed consent or not, I was not counseled.
Yes.
They can actually bring a case before the tribunal today from even many, many years ago. Would it hold water?
No, first of all, for the many years ago, this act is specific. It has a start date. So the issues that we are dealing with are after the passing of the act.
Okay,
so
even months ago, in January.
So this is a tribunal. It's a court case. Yeah. So what would happen when somebody has such a claim? There will be the claimant, and there'll be somebody responding to the claim. So you cannot prejudge. You need to know the circumstances under which this happened. Did you know that, as we've already said, that it is presumed? You know, even by the time you're donating blood, you know that it's going to be HIV tested. So you can't say that, I didn't really know. So we would hear the facts, and the ruling will be based on the evidence that will be presented before the tribunal.
When it comes to matters of tests, hospital-based tests, most times when people present themselves, say with an illness, and they draw blood, in some places you will be told what they are going to test. In some cases, they do not. In some cases, what they tell you may not be the entire story. The question I want to ask is, how conversant are our lab practitioners, medical practitioners, health practitioners aware of these laws, and how do they ensure that they are enforced?
Yeah, actually, that is what you're saying is really, really true. And again, I'm going to say these are the opportunities that we've been seeking to let the people know. Many of these people know and ignore them, the regulations, but others genuinely don't know. You'll be surprised in this present day and age, like what the chair has said, that you have an employer who have an employee who keeps on coming, asking for sick off. They go behind the employee, talk to a doctor. A doctor should know that this is not supposed to happen. And they talk to a doctor and they say, just do a HIV test on him. And you go for your regular visits and the doctor does a HIV test on you. Now, most probably that doctor knows that that is not right, but they're hoping they'll not be caught. But probably there are those who actually are not aware. We need to publicize. This is a message that we need to go out and tell people that there is an HIV Prevention Control Act, and doing that is against the law. Now, as to whether people will stop doing it, that's another issue. But they know that if they are caught, that is against the law.
That's a good one. Let's take a break. It's 27 minutes to 8. On this Justice Thursday, we are talking about accessing justice through tribunals, and the HIV and AIDS Tribunal is our conversation today. The chairperson of the HIV and AIDS Tribunal is Caroline Mboku. She's in the studio alongside a member of the tribunal, Professor Walter Jaoko. As we take this break, let me tell you about the 911 Security Group. This is a company that's been in operation for more than 25 years. They have several solutions, including vehicle tracking solutions, electronic security and screening solutions, emergency response, manned guarding, and road rescue services. And they tell you, if you go to your App Store or Play Store and download the 911 Group app, you have access to them 24/7. And then if you have an emergency, let's say you need car tracking, you need road rescue services, you just go to the app, you raise the alarm, and they will be able to tell exactly where you are through GPS tracking. They'll dispatch a team to come and help you. So it's as simple as that. Just go to Google Play Store, Apple App Store, download the 911 Group app. Conversation continues shortly.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
It's that time again when we get to gather around and marvel at the great engineering, raw power, finesse, and sharing our round motor love for motoring at the annual Digger Motor Show 2023. From car lovers, bike enthusiasts, spare part dealers, insurance, as well as asset financiers and more, this year's Digger Motor Show will be one for the books. We're talking a whole 4-day event from Thursday 20th to Sunday 23rd at KICC Grounds, Nairobi, where we will have something for everyone, so you better not miss out. Get the family, bring your friends, and share in the joys that will give you lasting memories and an experience you're bound to not forget. For more information or participation, contact Caroline on 0723-803601 or email Sinyandiaka at standardmedia.co.ke. Digger Motor Show 2023 is brought to you by Standard Group and Digger Motors and is powered by Spice FM.
Bro, the game is about to start. Let's go. But just give me a minute, man. Malize. What's up? Who are you chatting with? I'm just filing my returns, then we bounce. Because I hope you remember the deadline is June 30th. The game will start, banner. Where? It doesn't take time. And yep, I'm done. That was fast. Where? Show me how you've done yours, because I don't want to pay any penalty. Just log into itax.kra.go.ke and file your returns. And if you don't know how to, just go to KRA's YouTube page and watch a tutorial. It's that easy. Allah, filing returns is easier than cooking. Easy peasy, msay.
Kenya Revenue Authority reminds all PIN holders to file their 2022 tax returns on or before 30th of June 2023. For assistance, call 0711 099 999 or email callcenter@kra.go.ke. You can also visit any of the KRA service centers or any Huduma center countrywide. Kenya Revenue Authority.
Nairobi at 15, highs of 24 and lows of 14. We'll see lows of 14 in a cloudy Nakuru at 16, going to highs of 25. 23 will be the high in a cloudy Nyeri at 16. And at 14 degrees, Eldoret is mostly cloudy, highs of 22 and lows of 13. The sun will come up in Mombasa at 23, currently highs of 29. And we'll see sunny conditions in Malindi at 24, currently highs of 29. It's mostly sunny this morning at 20 in Kisumu, highs of 28. And Kakamega is partly sunny at 16, highs of 27. Down to lows of 16. We're looking at sunny conditions in Kampala at 17, highs of 28. And Dar es Salaam will go to highs of 30 today. It's currently sunny at 23. 8 degrees and mostly clear in Johannesburg, highs of 19 and lows of 4. While at 26, Lagos is cloudy, highs of 28 and lows of 25. It's 22 in Kinshasa. It'll go to highs of 32.
When the engine revs, will you be ready to get all that petrolhead enthusiasm at this year's annual Digger Motor Show? Well, you better belt up and make your way to KICC from the 20th to the 23rd of July 2023 for a wholesome 4-day event. Come and join car lovers, bike enthusiasts, spare part dealers, insurance, as well as asset financiers, and more for what will be an unforgettable experience by far. We are going all out to make it a great show for you and the whole family with something for everyone, so you better not miss out. For more information or participation, contact Caroline on 0723803601 or email sinyandiaka@standardmedia.co.ke. Digger Motor Show 2023 is brought to you by Standard Group and Digger Motors and is powered by Spice FM.
All right, busy in most parts of the city this morning. Everybody gearing up towards a very busy Thursday. Actually, all right, looking at North Airport Road, heading out towards the Eastern Bypass and also Outer Ring, very heavy. And all of this quadrant here, then going towards Lunga Lunga, Jogo Road, Likoni, and spilling over to the Likoni interchange. We're going to see some movement here. It's busy on Juja Road, heading into the city. All of that connecting on Muranga Road with what's coming off of Thika Superhighway, as well as Kiambu Road. Let's look at the other side of things, where it's heavy coming off Naivasha Road. Gong Road also coming to that junction, very heavy traffic. Getting onto Riara Road and connecting with James Gishuru, it's going to take time to get out of this one. Waiyaki Way not looking too busy. There is the expressway, as CT would say. Use it this morning, pay a little bit more, but get where you're going really quickly. Let's talk on Spice FM KE on Twitter. Keep things moving this morning.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right.
The conversation continues on this Justice Thursday. We are talking about HIV and AIDS Tribunal, and we have two people from the tribunal. One of them is the chairperson, Caroline Mboku, and a member of the tribunal, Professor Walter Jaoko. It's a 7-member tribunal, chair and 6 members. As we were taking the break, Professor, you were responding to CT's question, which was on with regards to the medical professionals and their training and their understanding of the law and their understanding of their own responsibility and how far that goes. In terms of, if in the case that you just gave, where an employer notices that, an employee is taking frequent off days and then the employer goes behind the employees back to a medical professional and tells them, please, can you do a test, an HIV test on this one, let me know. According to the law, the HIV and AIDS, what is the P? Prevention Control Act. You're not supposed to do that without, first of all, the consent. Don't test without consent, and don't disclose to third parties without consent. But then, like you said, there are some practitioners who may know and others who may not know. Whose responsibility is it to make sure that all of them know?
Really, it's their responsibility. First of all, as a professional, we are bound by professional ethics as well, and professional conduct. And for healthcare professionals, as CT was mentioning earlier, during their training, they are made aware that there is something called confidentiality of a patient. And this is irrespective of HIV. Even if you come to me and I've treated you for malaria, I don't go to the pub and say, CT was in my clinic today and I treated him for malaria. That is breaking confidentiality. So that is a professional ethics. Then now that is backed by the law when it comes to HIV, that you should not do that. And in that case that you've talked about, actually you've broken three things. One is there's been no pre-test counseling. So then there is no consent. Then there is disclosure.
Are there regulations in place to manage this entire process?
So the Act then gives directions to the Ministry of Health to give some guidelines. And there's some guidelines that have been provided, for example, counseling guidelines. And you can get this from the Ministry of Health, HIV testing, counseling guidelines. But unfortunately, there are sections where some guidelines require to be developed, and those are still lagging.
What does that mean, Chair?
There are guidelines on counseling, that is pre and post counseling, but there are no guidelines on confidentiality regarding to HIV and AIDS. It's a requirement under the Act. That is Section 20 of the Act.
Okay. There are requirements according to the Act that there should be guidelines.
Yes.
Okay. And there are no guidelines.
Specific on
confidentiality. Okay.
Yes.
Who is responsible for instituting said guidelines then? Because I can imagine, because if I were the aggrieved party, I came to the tribunal and it was a confidentiality issue, and that is specific to my problem. And there is a practitioner who then told CT my business. That being my issue, and then you say there are no guidelines around which Dr. CT is supposed to have operated, then what are we doing?
So the law is there. You've heard it said, ignorance of the law is not defense. So the law is there. What the guidelines are supposed to then provide is clarity for the people who will be doing these issues of confidentiality. They are guided by their professions, okay?
Yeah.
But we are talking about now a guideline that will work across different professions. And so that is what we are seeking, and we are hoping that will be developed.
But why is it not there?
In specific areas.
I don't know.
I'm still at why it's not there.
Because we are saying that NASCOP never came up with such guidelines.
It's not NASCOP to come up with the guidelines. It is the Act was passed in 2006, and when you read the Act, it says the Minister for Health. Right now, it's the CS, the CS for Health. There are judgments that have been passed regarding that specific section on guidelines that are specific on confidentiality when it comes to matters HIV. Those guidelines have not been. They are provided for in the Act, but they have not been provided for as at now. But there are those that have come up with NASCOP, and as Prof has rightfully said, in their trade, there are so many other professional ethics and guidelines that are there that are cutting across their practice that is actually applicable. The only one that is not there is one that is specific for HIV and AIDS.
Does it cause a problem on the tribunal? If we're to be honest, does it cause an issue now with the absence of these guidelines if adjudication over a matter is supposed to happen and those guidelines do not exist? Would it cause an issue on a particular case? Would you be at a loss in terms of what to do because of the absence of these guidelines?
I would say no.
Would somebody not have proper access to justice because of the non-existence of these guidelines?
It will be a 50-50. It will be a 50-50 situation depending on the other parameters of the case. So it will not solely mean that there will not be access
Denied
to
justice.
It's just that the justice that will be there perhaps will not be.
Can we give an example? Let's give an example.
Yes.
Okay. Again,
It helps.
Dr. CT gave information about my condition to somebody, for example, who would have been in a position to hire me. I have a contract for work. All I'm waiting for is a signature. And that's going to happen. They told me, yeah, the job is yours. I've gone and I'm just giving what seems to happen. I've resigned at my other position and I'm waiting for this one. Dr. CT at a cultural establishment happened to have shared this information, and the person he shared the information with was the person who is signing my letter. What? Because of that, I now lose the job. The only reason why I lost this job is because that information was shared. And we are saying that there is no guideline about confidentiality with a medical practitioner. In that case, that is the only reason why I'm at a loss. And I come before the tribunal, and then you can put your arms up and say, well, you know what?
We
There are
can
no
see
guidelines.
everything,
We
but
can see
then-
your problem, but we have no guidelines. So I'm sorry, but that's denial of access justice to me. Is it not?
Well, that can come, but you see, that's why this is a hearing, so that you hear both sides. If I'm a clever lawyer, I would hold, my lawyer would hold CT responsible because of training. He's a professional. Wasn't he supposed to know? Can he hide behind the fact that there are no guidelines just to do anything? No, but what was his training? He knows that he's supposed to do certain things, and so the arguments will be brought by both the complainant and...
Excuse me, teacher. Excuse me. This tribunal, however, operates under this law that you're calling HAPCA. All right?
Yeah.
HAPCA says that guidelines shall be developed. Those guidelines haven't been developed. As a tribunal, what is guiding you is this piece of legislation.
Yeah. And the piece of legislation says, do not disclose to third parties. So I will still hold you accountable whether or not the guidelines are there.
You know, Madam Chair, we do not wish you to feel that this is a tribunal.
Because we don't have guidelines.
Yes. As we have guidelines. The reason why I mentioned NASCOP, NASCOP and their functions fall under the ministry. Okay?
Yes.
These various departments deal with specific issues. Now, HIV has been with us, for over 20 years. Okay? And there are those who've been in the process of research into HIV, care and treatment. We've gone into hoops, great lengths, where now we are at implementation science level where we not only research, find, but we put that into practice. Now, that can happen without guidelines. Not possible, because the very process has to have a protocol. A protocol is a guideline, okay? When people are being cared for, there's a process that is followed to guarantee that they receive that care using every known ethical guideline that exists.
Yes.
Now, the reason why I'm going to town on this is for a very simple reason. HIV may be considered new as far as diseases go. Malaria has been there longer. Stomach aches have been there longer. Okay? However, the severity of it and what it does to the individual and the people related to them is something that had, up to date, it's there are very few diseases. Cancer can catch up, but HIV, because of the stigma attached to it, caused a lot of havoc. What can the tribunal therefore do to ensure that there's clarity? Because, as Professor Jaoko mentions, a clever lawyer would find loops. Now, a clever lawyer, just the knowledge that there is an incompleteness in this process would throw everything up in the air.
True.
For that simple thing. So, what can the tribunal do to ensure that these gaps are actually filled?
Okay. So far, there are judgments that have been passed where we are directing that the CS in charge of health should ensure that these guidelines have come up. Those judgments, ideally, nothing has happened. And so right now, where we are at, we're still new in the board, but one of our mandates is to actually go and have meetings with them and just tell them the loopholes that are there and what needs to be done. So we shall be knocking on their doors, and hopefully we shall be having the guidelines by the time by the time our 3-year term ends. Yes.
What's the process for some, and who can then come before the tribunal, and what's the process for then now lodging, I don't know if I'm using the right, lodging a complaint or then bringing a case before the tribunal?
Okay. This being a quasi-judicial process, we receive complaints through SMSs, we receive complaints through emails, as in all manner of communication is allowed. So ideally, once the information is received at the secretariat, we have a secretariat. Our offices are at Reinsurance Plaza, 10th floor, 12th floor. Reinsurance Plaza, 12th floor. So a claimant would come, explain himself or herself, and there's a claim form that is filled. The information is taken down in compliance with what HAPCA provides, and then the case is heard. For those who wish to lodge it through online, we have our website that is active. That is www.hivtribunal.go.ke. There's a tab there for lodge a complaint. You just click there, type exactly what it is, and the information will be received. The form that is there actually captures all your details, so you shall be called, and the same is reduced into writing. The other alternative for those who cannot do it online or come and access us here in Nairobi, we have satellite offices in all the former provinces. So you just go to a high court there, say that you have an issue, you want to lodge a complaint with the tribunal, and the court registry there will help you to lodge a complaint, and we shall be able to hear you.
Okay. Must it be at former provincial headquarters?
We are saying former, not the headquarters.
Can I just go to any court?
The law courts, yes.
So if you go to any law courts,
yes,
you'll be able to be guided to the registry, and the registry can then take up this issue.
Yes.
Okay.
How long then? So, as that determination is made, and then you say we'll have a tribunal sitting, and thereafter, how long? Or is there a time that's given, like with other tribunals, 60 days, 90 days kind of thing, within time that a case must then be determined?
Okay. The bit about tribunal is, unlike the law courts, we are supposed to be fast and efficient, and so.
Did you say unlike the law courts was supposed to be?
Sorry. Yeah, I get your point. Yes. Assuming you lodge a case in court right now, it will take you 1 year, 2 years for it to be determined. But now, because we are a tribunal, we are faster, and so we give ourselves 1 year. Within 1 year, we are supposed to have heard you and given a determination. The only problem is sometimes these cases come And where there are lawyers, they will come and ask for adjournments, and the matter drags on. But we as the tribunal have given ourselves that target, that no case should go past the 1 year mark.
Are you permanent tribunal, or do you only meet regularly?
We meet regularly. So far, because of the number of cases that we have, we meet twice a week. That is Thursdays and Fridays. Yes.
Every Thursday and Friday.
Yes.
Today is Thursday, so you have a sitting.
After this, we are rushing to the tribunal.
That is why we were asking all the time.
And maybe something else that there's some heroes, silent heroes that we don't mention a lot. We have what we call pro bono lawyers. When you come to the tribunal actually allocates you a lawyer to help you in your case, and the lawyer does it for free. So these are our great heroes that I just thought we should mention. We have a number of lawyers. When you bring in your case, we link you with these lawyers who come and support your claim legally, and it's done for free. So you shouldn't be afraid that you'll require to be paid. And then the other thing that the government has done, for all the cases that you file in court, you pay a filing fee.
Yeah.
For the HIV tribunal, you don't pay. You pay zero.
I see.
So it is attractive for people. Don't keep silent when you're discriminated against. Please come to the tribunal. The government is out to help you.
I want to finish with one question. Madam Chair, there's something you mentioned about discrimination.
Yeah.
And specifically, if we look at children living with HIV and then they go to school, we want to make sure that they're not discriminated against on the basis of their HIV status.
Yes.
But also in some cases, they may require some special attention. For example, diet and all. Now, is there an obligation for a school to provide this based on a student's HIV status? Then they should be able to get some accommodation.
Unfortunately, the Act is silent on that. And that is why we say the law does not cure. The law does not cure everything. So that, unfortunately, that aspect was never captured. So the law is silent on that.
So in an event where a student is in school and maybe they require a special diet or they require certain specific days to go and visit their counselor or a health practitioner, what should they do?
It will come back to now the parent. Because you see, as a parent, you're responsible for your child. So it's you to now decide to what extent are you willing to tell the teachers the kind of care and attention that your child needs. Do you want to tell them she's just on special diet without divulging? I remember when we were in high school, we were just told, "Uyo simpatie maragwe," and that was it. Really, they didn't really want a medical report or something. So it comes back to the parent, whether or not the parent is willing to tell the school, or you'll just find a way of telling the school, my child needs special diet without divulging. It comes back to the parent divulging.
And if the school doesn't, now the parent and the child can lodge a complaint to the tribunal.
If it doesn't provide?
Yes.
No, you really can't, because that's not discrimination. The school, it is just like they're not discriminating against the child because the child is HIV positive. If the school doesn't have special diet, he doesn't have special diet. So we have to be careful to say, is that a discrimination? I think you have to prove that we are now discriminating against the child because the child is HIV positive.
The tricky ones.
Yes.
The real elephant in the room is how on earth do you deal with the stigma?
Yes.
Because that is what brings about all these issues that get people to eventually get to the tribunal.
It's a stigma issue. Thank you very much for joining us today. We know you're heading to the tribunal this morning. We'll have you again. Please, if you don't mind, we'll invite you. Please come.
Thank you very much.
And say hello to all the other members of the tribunal.
We definitely do. Thank you.
Asante. Caroline Mboku is the chairperson of the HIV and AIDS Tribunal. Professor Walter Jaoko is a member of that tribunal. We've been having a conversation about the HIV and AIDS Tribunal, the HIV and AIDS P is?
Prevention.
Yes.
Prevention and control.
Have to make sure it's not promotion. It's Prevention and Control Act that establishes this tribunal. Keep it here for more conversations. Good morning. It's now 8 a.m.
spice up your life.
Top of the hour on Vibes Radio. The news at the top of the hour on Vibes Radio.
Good morning, this is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto. Now, Azimio has called on Kenyans to be ready to hold protest if the 2023 proposed finance bill is passed. Led by Chairman Wycliffe Oparanya and Martha Karua, they insist that the bill can be sent by amendments made. Azimio's Martha Karua has also urged the government to stop profiling Mount Kenya youth as members of Mungiki.
Stop profiling youth from Mount Kenya. This is meant to curtail any political activity in Mount Kenya. It is meant to cow us as leaders from Mount Kenya and maybe make us afraid of mobilizing. We want to tell you that constitution you opposed is the constitution of Kenya today. We will exercise our rights. We will go to Mount Kenya to discuss the budget like we will go to all other places in Kenya.
Meanwhile, President William Ruto says the government's project to build affordable houses will increase urbanization and create job opportunities. Speaking in Naivasha at the Kenya Urban Forum, Ruto also criticized those opposing his agenda, saying that they don't want Kenyans to live in decent homes.
We have integrated affordable housing as a critical pillar of our national bottom-up economic transformation agenda, not only to deal with affordable housing supply gaps, but also as a means of creating employment for millions of our citizens. I hear some people say, how is building a house in the city going to help me? I am living in some rural place. They forget that the people who will be living in those cities will either be their children or their grandchildren, and they have a choice whether these children will be going to live in slums or they will be living in some decent housing units.
And the president has left the country for a 2-day visit to Geneva, Switzerland. In a statement, State House spokesperson Hussein Mohammed said the president is set to deliver a keynote address at the International Labour Conference in Geneva. The International Labour Conference will bring together global leaders, including heads of state, the UN Secretary General and the ILO Director General, to address key themes such as addressing inequalities, promoting inclusive work environments, ensuring social protection, and advancing human rights. And Kamau Thuge has officially been appointed as the new Central Bank of Kenya governor for the next 4 years. In a Gazette notice, President William Ruto said Thuge's appointment takes effect on Monday next week. Thuge takes over from retired former CBK Governor Patrick Njoroge. And members of County Assembly who have been up in arms will likely see a pay rise in the coming financial year if the Salaries and Remuneration Commission goes through with proposals on wage reviews. During its presentation to County Assembly Service Boards on the third Public Service Remuneration and Benefits Review cycle, the SRC revealed a 10,000 shillings increase in MCA's gross salaries. The current remuneration for MCA stands at 144,375,000 shillings a month, with a committee sitting allowance of 62,400 shillings. In the 2023-2024 financial year, the SRC proposed gross salaries for MCAs to go up to 154,481 shillings, with the sitting allowance remaining the same. The 2024-2025 financial year salaries will see another upward review to 164,588 shillings. However, one of the big asks from MCAs, which was the plenary sitting allowances, was not fulfilled. It was one of the reasons county assemblies shut down after the SRC threatened to scrap it. And the Energy and Petroleum Regulatory Authority has released new fuel prices which are actually in force and will see the price of super petrol decrease from 0.66 per litre. That of diesel has also gone down by 1 shillings and 12 cents per litre. At the same time, the retail price of kerosene has been increased by 35 cents per litre. Following the review in Nairobi, super petrol will retail at 182 shillings and 4 cents, diesel at 167 shillings and 28 cents, and kerosene at 161 shillings and 48 cents per litre. Now 15 more bodies were exhumed at the Shakahola forest in Kilifi County, where the search for victims of a starvation cult is ongoing. The death toll now stands at 318 after phase 3 of the exhumation exercise kicked off last week. According to the police officers leading the operation, one suspect was arrested, bringing the total number of arrests so far to 36. However, the detectives noted that no rescue was made, hence the number of people rescued still stands at 95. The number of victims who have been identified by their kin still remains at 19, while those missing are 613. Meanwhile, DNA samples collected are 93. This is News. I'm Dennis Aseto. Good morning.
.5 Spice FM, Kisumu.
After 8 o'clock, and we're looking at traffic in different parts of the city. It's heavy on the Thika Superhighway coming into the CBD. We're also looking at multiple lanes of traffic on Kiambu Road, and this is it's Limuru Road, right around United Nations Avenue, and it's sticky getting towards the CBD. Rangai Mathai, very busy right about now. And on the other side, we're looking at Ring Road, Westlands, Waikiwe, Chiromo, all of this packing up. The Red Hill Link Road not looking too bad in terms of an option that you can use this morning. All right, what else are we looking at? James Gashoro, like we talked about, it's heavy coming in from Naivasha Road, Gong Road. Everybody else now trying to pile into the city. Langata Road is also looking pretty busy as you get towards Raila Odinga Way. And there's an option of using that to get through. Airdrome Road also busy right now. Traffic hour proper is where we are now. North Airport Road to get towards Embakasi, out towards the Eastern Bypass. I don't know of another option that you can use right now if you're already on it, but you might have to sit this one out, right? Let's talk on Spice FM KE on Twitter. We want to keep things moving this Thursday.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latif, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is
Good
the
morning.
Situation
How are
Room,
you doing?
the
It's
only
coming
way
up
to
8
start
minutes
your
after
day.
8. This is the Situation Room. It's Kenya's biggest conversation on this 15th day of June 2023. City?
Yes, please.
Ndu is trying to catch your attention.
Yes, do. Which direction you want me to move to?
Thank you very much.
This way you want me to be?
You're okay there?
No, both of you are just distracting me. I'm trying to say something. Or to say today is the 20th.
Okay, say it then.
Okay, today is not the 20th. It's the 15th of June, 2023. It's a Thursday. We've just had a Justice Thursday conversation. We're continuing a Justice conversation, and we'll have two guests who are joining us for this conversation. But as we do that, reminding you, KRA is telling you, yes, we are coming to the end of the financial year, and we'd like you to please file your returns regarding all your income in the year ended December 31st, 2022. Tafadhali. If you're employed, go to your employer, ask for the P9 form. Use it. File your returns. If you are a foreigner who has a business in Kenya and you have a PIN number, please go file your returns. If you're a Kenyan and you're not living in Kenya at present, you're somewhere outside the country, but you have a PIN, please file your returns. You do all that online. No need to go queuing to Times Tower or elsewhere. Just go to itax.kra.go.ke. If you have a problem, go to Twitter, go to KRA Care, go to DM and tell them, hey guys, I have a problem. Chap, they'll tell you, what's your problem? Shida yako ni nini? No, they'll not be like that, but they'll tell you, oh, thank you very much for reaching out to us. How may we help you today? Then they'll guide you through the entire process of filing your tax returns. Iwinjo? Very good. It's June. We're also celebrating 40 years of Sarit Center.
Yes, happy birthday, Sarit. Now imagine On the first floor of Sarit Center lies a beautiful establishment where your senses can take you on a journey of Asian influence. It's called Ginkgo, and it's situated right there with fantastic decor and design. And the family style meals will help you enjoy a wonderful time of experiencing Asian cuisine in Ginkgo. It's one of the very many outlets that are at the Sarit Center, Sarit Your City. And as Sarit celebrates 40 years, they're saying spend 2,040 shillings and you get a chance to win some more. This would be a fantastic place to spend that kind of money. And then go down to the reception area and say, look, I ate here and I spent 2,040 shillings, and you can spin the magic wheel and see what else Sarit has in store for you. We'll do that right here on Spice FM as well. Talk to us on our socials, Facebook and YouTube, Spice FM KE. Tell us how you would spend 2,040 shillings and you could win a hamper by the end of today.
Yes, indeed. So we have two guests who are joining us in the studio. Dorcas Gitonga is a program officer and on sexual and reproductive health rights at an organization called Kelin. She'll tell us what Kelin is all about. Gilbert Mitula is an advocate of the High Court of Kenya. He is also here in this show. Good morning, Gilbert and Dorcas.
Good morning.
Good to have you on the show.
Thank you so much.
Gilbert, once again.
Once again, indeed.
Karibu sana. Dorcas, karibu.
Asante sana.
This is Kenya's biggest conversation.
Yeah,
that's the
fun.
hot seat
Yes.
of the Situation Room.
Yes.
You have the pleasure and the honor of occupying the hot seat today. Yes. And also of hearing the day's proverb from CT.
Wow. Our proverbs for the whole of this week ending tomorrow from the country of Zambia. Okay. Whose capital is? It's a question.
Lusaka, Zambia. It's Lusaka.
Well done. It was Lusaka, it's still Lusaka.
Yeah.
Okay. He who was busy with two things drowned.
Interesting.
What's your interpretation of that, Dorcas?
My interpretation is that, it's the same as he who serves two masters. You cannot serve two masters. So then you should actually choose what you want to do so that then you're able to focus and fully, give value. So you cannot pick two things. Obviously, one will fall. Yeah.
Very well. Gilbert, is yours similar?
I should take a break and stop doing too much.
Yeah?
That's what I'm hearing.
That's what you're hearing?
Yeah, I'm being called out.
You're just being told you're about to drown.
Yeah.
Stop now.
Stop now.
Lest you drown.
Yes.
All right. We are going to have a conversation about what's been happening in the region, and specifically for today, Uganda. Let's just start with the update.
Yeah.
President Yoweri Museveni has been announcing and saying, he tested positive. He's also announced that he tested positive again yesterday. And he has said, so I'm still positive. I was meant to be traveling for meetings outside the country. I'm not going to be traveling. The day before yesterday, he said, it's been 2 days since I updated you, the people, on my status. And I noticed on Twitter that some people, I think they're from Kenya, who are spreading rumors that I am in ICU. Tell those Kenyans, I'm fine.
Not in ICU.
No, I'm not in ICU, surely. No. But also, what we are discussing is something that he had done even before he tested positive. In that Uganda's parliament discussed a bill, and the president has assented to that bill. And that bill now has become subject of global discussion and debate. What's the name of that bill, Gilbert?
It's called
the Act now.
The Anti-homosexuality Act 2023.
Anti-homosexuality Act 2023.
Yeah.
What does it say? What's the main thrust of this act?
I think essentially what has been claimed by Parliament, especially by Asuman Basalirwa, the Member of Parliament who presented this bill as a private member's bill, was that it is to address people who are recruiting and promoting homosexuality in Uganda. And so to that extent, it's trying to address this whole idea that homosexuals are recruited, and that as certain organizations or people promote homosexuality, that it becomes an issue within the context of that nation and its cultural values and its concept of the family and what constitutes a family or who constitutes a family. And so to that extent, it goes to the root of these kinds of debates in that nation.
When you say it's anti-homosexuality, what does it recognize or stop recognizing, or does it outlaw? Any of you can come in.
Let me take
Continue,
and just
Gilbert.
build on what I've just said. So essentially how this law is constructed is that it does not see homosexuality as an identity or a person, but rather as acts or actions. That's why it creates the first offense as the offense of homosexuality. And that is sexual contact with or without consent between two persons of the same sex. Of course, it goes into the question of what is sex as well, and whether sex is gender or whether sex is biological sex as it is known. So to that extent, it says that there's an offense called homosexuality where there are two people who are engaging. Consent doesn't matter in sexual contact or sexual activities. Consent doesn't matter. Then it creates another offense called aggravated homosexuality. So first of all, that aggravated homosexuality attracts the death penalty. And it is in particular context. For example, when people have sex or sexual contact with a person who is over the age of 75, when you have sexual contact with a child, they have something called homosexual rape. So in that context, they also target people who are living with disabilities and people who are living with HIV, and essentially say that if you have this kind of sexual contact with a person who has HIV or who has a disability, it's aggravated homosexuality and will consequently lead to the death penalty for you. Then it creates other offenses, and essentially the context of this act is to criminalize in general, and it criminalizes, for example, landlords who offer homes to homosexuals or people who are suspected to be carrying out homosexuality there, to landlords who offer who offer premises for rent to organizations that are seen to promote homosexuality. The question of promotion of homosexuality is there. So if you fund organizations that are seen to promote homosexuality, then you as a funder or you who give money to these organizations or donate money, even if it's as an individual, is also criminalized, and so on and so forth.
But I hear like the premise of this whole thing is on same-sex conduct. Is that not so, Dorcas?
Yes, and I think just to build up to what Gilbert is saying, now this is the final bill that was passed. Before this was passed, initially, what the act sought to criminalize was you identifying as a homosexual. Then there was uproar from CSOs and human rights organizations, and then they're like, okay, fine. You know what we will do? What we'll criminalize is not one identifying as a homosexual. What we'll criminalize is the homosexual act. You know, that is problematic because how will you prove that somebody conducted a homosexual act, unless of course you saw them, they recorded themselves, but nobody walks around and you can tell that a homosexual act was conducted in the confines of their homes. So the problematic thing here is sort of evidence, and you're just giving, I think what we are saying is that this is giving the policeman a field day to then interpret it and be able to arrest people just because they have conducted a homosexual act, which is very difficult to then prove and have evidence that a homosexual act was committed.
But Dorcas, don't you then think that this law actually makes it harder for police to harass you? Because if they take you to court, they've got to prove, like you said.
Yeah, but then
because the issue here is not identifying as as a homosexual.
Exactly.
The issue here is mostly same-sex conduct.
Exactly. And actually,
sounds to me like it's a safer piece of legislation here.
And the problem is, let me tell you an interesting clause in that bill. It empowers and it gives a right to Ugandan citizens that if they feel like, if they see a homosexual act has been done, or they see that there's an intention of a homosexual act to be done, they have a duty to report to the police. So this intention is what now the police will take a field day because, and I think we'll talk about this in terms of gender expression. There are people who on the outside, they probably dress more masculine and they're actually female. And so what the public will do, they will see you having dressed like that and they see you walking into a room, they call the police and the police will arrest you and say there was an intention to conduct a homosexual act. How can you prove that?
Exactly.
How can you prove that?
Exactly. If they can't prove it, it means that they cannot prosecute you.
But they can arrest you.
And I think that's something really important within the context of criminal justice.
Mm.
It's the fact that there are penal consequences and application of a justice system within this context. Now, the thing is, at the end of the day, we know, for example, if I could juxtapose it against a Kenyan situation, where we have significant over-policing in poorer sections, for example, in urban informal settlements, we know that there are more arrests that come from these places, more prosecutions. That's why, for example, Makadara Law Courts in Kenya is the biggest court in East and Central Africa, handling over 30,000 cases. Why? Because Makadara covers the entire Eastlands, and the over-policing there means that more people are arrested, more people are prosecuted. And this is the context of this act if you juxtapose. It's not just about the question of whether it protects you just because now it prevents the police, but rather it gives license, it gives excuse, it gives people the opportunity to target, it gives police the opportunity to target. And the question is, we have to think about this within the context of freedom. Is freedom a scenario where we constantly have to think, oh, I might be arrested for this situation because the state has given powers to criminal justice actors to do this? Or is freedom a context in which I don't have to worry about this being an issue? And that has to fit within the context of also existing human rights and the standards that are set up.
Can I ask the question, therefore, that is there a feeling, understanding, or is there knowledge to support the view that people who identify as being homosexual are discriminated against?
Yes, and actually this is one of the claims that has been made, because there are 3 petitions that have been filed against that act, and we'll get to them. But in one of them, the key claim in that petition, I think it's by an advocate called Rutaro, is that the act itself is discriminatory to the extent that it targets. You see, it is very specific in who it is targeting. And the problem is it's targeting not within the context of anything except these so-called homosexual acts. But the same is not done for heterosexual acts. For example, if a heterosexual person decides that they're going to have sex with somebody over 75 years, that is not a criminal act. If a heterosexual person decides that they're going to have sex with a person who has disabilities or who has HIV, that is not a criminal offense. But if it happens to a homosexual, then it is a criminal offense. Where are the corresponding laws for people who are heterosexual?
You know, there is a reason why I asked the question. You've presented one side of the argument. The one which points to the discrimination. But laws don't quite work in singularity, because there's always something that you learned friends have. It's called interpretation, okay, and application. So yes, you have the law. Are we therefore saying that the laws that we're talking about do not in any way provide any protection for people who present themselves as being homosexuals?
They don't.
They don't. And actually, that is why this bill should be declared to be unconstitutional, because it conflicts, and that's one in the petition that is currently in court, it conflicts a myriad of laws, including employment, because what the homosexual Anti-Homosexual Act is saying is that once you're found guilty of a homosexual act, that is ground for dismissal, as you know, from employment. And number 2, which is the bigger conversation, is the fact that they may not be able to access health services. In terms of discrimination, when we are looking at accessibility to healthcare, accessibility to even basic HIV testing, that in itself, it has been said, in fact, I think the UNAIDS gave a report that in countries where they have very stringent laws, discriminatory laws, there's an upsurge of HIV infections. So that in itself already places them at a place where then they are not able to access HIV testing, because when they go to the facilities, they face discrimination, they face a lot of stigma from the healthcare professionals and even from the public. So when you look at it from a general perspective, where it's discriminatory, yes, to their human right, but also in accessing basic healthcare services, then you would see that it indeed is very unconstitutional.
What you say about health services has some truth to it, but it's not the whole story, is it? Because once upon a time, that was absolutely true. Anyone who presented as being homosexual, accessing healthcare was next to an impossibility. That is actually not the case now.
Where?
No.
I'm talking about Kenya.
Okay. because we are talking about Uganda.
Oh, no. I am going there.
Yeah.
You have to juxtapose whatever you're saying.
Yes.
Because we also have a process that has been begun that mirrors what we have in Uganda, where there are people, it is Mheshimiwa Kaluma seeking something very, very similar to what we have in Uganda. So it is important to have a look at these things. Now, when you talk about the Ugandan case, I have to ask this question. Are we talking about homosexuals or are we talking about the stigma that people have with regards to homosexuality? What are we talking about?
I think that it is challenging to distinguish those two in terms of the stigma that people have or homosexuals themselves, because everyone lives in society and within context. And so you cannot be able to say that homosexuals have a problem without necessarily fitting it within the context of where they live, the society they exist in, and the experiences that they have. Now, the thing is that the bill is not just about homosexuals being able to, or LGBTQI folk being able to access healthcare. It's about the healthcare providers themselves. Because remember that the Act also criminalizes people who promote homosexuality. That means if you give anybody healthcare services who themselves is seen as a homosexual, then that, because it's called promotion of homosexuality according to them, then that becomes a problem. And essentially they're saying that these organizations...
Is that logic really, does it really make sense? Meaning, if a healthcare provider treats somebody who is a known bank robber, they are promoting bank robbery.
Essentially, that's the logic that they have in that act.
What does it say verbatim? If you could quote that those particular sections where you talked about a landlord, now let's talk about a health practitioner. What exactly is the law saying?
Allow me to get it so that we can be able to...
Please do. As you do that, Dorcas.
As he gets the specific law, I'd love to also raise a very huge issue about the wording of that law. Yeah, it uses very interesting wording that cannot even stand in a court of law. For instance, it says anybody that normalizes or encourages LGBTQI matters, that is a criminal. So I'm wondering, when you go to court, what is normalizing? So us talking about this conversation here, are we normalizing matters homosexuality? Number two, it talks about anybody who persuades somebody or encourages somebody to practice homosexual acts, that's criminal. So what exactly is persuasion? How can I persuade you, for instance, to then conduct a homosexual act? So I feel like the wording, and this has been our standing, is that the wording is sort of emotive. It's one that cannot really stand in a court of law because it's subjective. It's open to any interpretation. And I feel like that ambiguity was very intentional so that then anybody can be charged with anything. You know, you can easily charge media persons for normalizing LGBTQI matters just because they spoke about it.
Dorcas,
So, yeah.
what was the process of getting this from bill to act?
Okay.
So it was a private member's bill by one member of parliament who took it to Uganda's parliament.
Yes.
How many members are in Uganda's parliament?
That's how many are there?
It went through the through process, and the process in Uganda is just like Kenya. There's a first reading, there's a second reading, there's a third reading.
Exactly.
It went through the first reading, into the second reading, into the third reading, where it was approved by a majority of the people's representatives sitting in Uganda's parliament. It went to the president, and the president, listening to the conversation around the country and seeing it's a private member's bill, assented to it. Okay? Would you say that then it has received the backing of very many people in Uganda?
No, and actually that's a good point you've raised, because one of the reasons why the petitioners have gone to court to nullify this law is because one of the issues is because there was no meaningful public participation. Actually, when you read about it, I think the day there's 6 days between when it was introduced to when it was passed. 6 days. As you know, a law should undergo meaningful public participation, put on media so that people are able to put their inputs. So in all honesty, public participation was not meaningful, and it may have been fueled by a certain agenda. Number two.
Wait,
Oh, sorry.
It was how many days from first reading to third reading?
Should be 6 days.
It was 6 days.
Yes.
Is that provided for in Ugandan law?
No.
No.
Because essentially this is the context of the petition that Honorable Fox Odoi, one of the members of parliament in Uganda, together with others, is challenging that act. They are saying that by the time Asuman Basalirwa introduced it, it went to their constitutional and legislative affairs, and legal affairs committee, considered, forwarded to parliament, voted on and moved on. It took only 6 days. They are saying also that the public didn't participate. Of course, the response of the Attorney General, because the Attorney General did put in a response for Honorable Fox Odoi's specific petition. And he said, at the end of the day, we received oral memorandum and we also received written memoranda on this issue. And to that extent, there was participation.
And they had published for the invitation of this memoranda as they are required.
Yes, and there were representation. So the issue was whether it was public participation and whether it was meaningful public participation within the context of passing of such a far-reaching bill. Because it was not just about, say, people who are targeted as homosexuals or LGBTQ responding to the issue, but about the wider public, the health providers and so forth, also putting in their views, even the landlords, for example, and other businesses and other donors and so forth, putting in their views on how this would impact them.
Okay.
And I have that section that you asked about as well. On
We will
what is
talk
promotion.
about it. Let's take a break. It's 29 minutes to 9. This is Kenya's biggest conversation. We are talking about the Anti-Homosexuality Act 2023 that was assented to by President Yoweri Museveni in Uganda. And there are civil society organizations in the region who are up in arms against it. One of them is KELIN. What does KELIN mean in full, Dorcas?
That's Kenya Ethical and Legal Issues Network on HIV and AIDS.
Kenya Ethical and Legal Issues Network on HIV and AIDS.
Yes.
KELIN is one of those organizations that, in fact, was releasing a statement yesterday, and we saw it. Dorcas Gitonga is a program officer for sexual and reproductive health rights at KELIN, and Gilbert Mitula is an advocate of the High Court. They're here. We're discussing that as we take this break. Have you downloaded the 911 Group app? Please, you should. Gilbert, let me tell you about it. So you've heard of 911 Group?
No.
The 911 security group.
Yes.
You've seen the security, you've seen the rescue vehicles,
Yes,
right?
with 911 in red.
We've written 911 in red. Those guys. Now imagine you are somewhere and you get stuck. A vehicle, you don't know, imewasha magari zote, mataa zote, imagine, and you're trying to call your mechanic and your mechanic is not picking the phone. It's in the middle of the night or you're somewhere in the middle of nowhere. Now, if you have the 911 Group app on your phone, you get onto the app, you actually raise the alarm, and they will see you at their call center. They will be in touch with you. They will dispatch a vehicle to come.
And I don't need prior...
When you're downloading the app and you're signing up, then that's what you're basically just doing the preliminaries. You're saying, I'm Gilbert, this is what I... So when they're calling you, they, hey, Gilbert, we see you're stuck and we see you've raised an alarm. How can we sort you out? Imewasha mataa zote, imagine, they're like, don't worry. We're here.
Kuja na flatbed.
Kuja na flatbed. They flatbed you all the way to your garage. So just go to your Apple App Store or Google Play Store. Please download 911 Group app. Back shortly.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Bro, the game's about to start. Let's go. But just give me a minute, man. Malize. What's up? Who are you chatting with? I'm just filing my returns, then we bounce. Because I hope you remember the deadline is June 30th. The game will start, banner. Where? It doesn't take time. And yep, I'm done. That was fast. Where? Show me how you've done yours, because I don't want to pay any penalty. Just log into itax.kra.go.ke and file your returns. And if you don't know how to, just go to KRA's YouTube page and watch a tutorial. It's that easy. Allah, filing returns is easier than cooking. Easy peasy, say.
Kenya Revenue Authority reminds all PIN holders to file their 2022 tax returns on or before 30th of June 2023. For assistance, call 0711-099-999 or email callcenter@kra.go.ke. You can also visit any of the KRA service centers or any Huduma center countrywide. Kenya Revenue Authority. Tulipe ushuru, tujitegemee.
Cloudy conditions in Nairobi. We'll see highs of 25 and lows of 14. It's 17 and cloudy in Nakuru, highs of 25 and lows of 15. We'll see lows of 15 in a cloudy Nyeri at 16, going to highs of 23. 22 will be the high in Eldoret, where it's sunny at 17 and coming down to lows of 13. Partly sunny at 25 in Mombasa, highs of 29, and we'll see highs of 29 as well in Malindi, where it's sunny at 24. It's 21 and sunny in Kisumu, highs of 28 and highs of 27 in a sunny Kakamega at 18. It's 20 and mostly sunny in Kampala, highs of 28. And Dar es Salaam will see highs of 30 and lows of 21. 8 degrees and sunny in Johannesburg, highs of 19 and lows of 4. And heavy rain in Lagos at 26, highs of 28. 32 will be the high in a mostly sunny Kinshasa at 22.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
All right, still heavy in most parts this morning. Drizzle will be in some parts as well, so we want to watch out for that. The service lanes on the Thika Superhighway this morning can be used. It's looking good, not too bad. And traffic seems to have dwindled completely on Kiambu Road today, so well done. Waiyaki Way, also not too busy. We're looking at traffic on James Gishuru spilling over there. Coming off of Limuru Road from United Nations Avenue still continues, at least for now, but not too crazy a morning in terms of traffic. Let's keep it that way, shall we? Let's talk on Spice FM KE on Twitter.
Spice up your life.
All right, the conversation continues 24 minutes to 9. Here we go. We have two lawyers in the studio, Dorcas Gitonga and Gilbert Mitula. Dorcas is from the organization called Kalin. We are discussing the new law in Uganda called the Anti-Homosexuality Act, which basically criminalizes recruiting and promoting same-sex conduct in that country and various other things. Wakili, you were looking into that act and reading specifically what it says.
What promotion of homosexuality is.
Oh, yes. Right, okay.
Okay, so this is what it says first. A person who promotes homosexuality commits an offense and is liable on conviction to imprisonment for a period not exceeding 20 years.
Okay.
A person promotes homosexuality where the person encourages or persuades another person to perform a sexual act or to do any other act that constitutes an offense under this act, knowingly advertises, publishes, prints, broadcasts, distributes, or causes the advertisement, publication, printing, broadcasting, or distribution by any means, including the use of a computer information system or the internet, of any material promoting or encouraging homosexuality or the commission of an offense under this act.
Mm-hmm.
Provides financial support, whether in kind or cash, to facilitate activities that encourage homosexuality or observance or normalization of conduct prohibited under this act.
Mm-hmm.
Knowingly leases or subleases, uses or allows another person to use any house, building, or establishment for the purposes of undertaking activities that encourage homosexuality or any other offense under this act.
Mm-hmm.
And lastly, operates an organization which promotes or encourages homosexuality or the observance or normalization of conduct prohibited under this act.
Okay.
So this show would essentially be illegal.
If we were promoting...
If for this discussion we have...
If we were promoting and encouraging same-sex conduct. Now, for avoidance of doubt, on this show this morning, we are not promoting or encouraging same-sex conduct. So even if we're in Uganda, would not be...
Let me read the section specifically on advertising, publishing, printing, broadcasting. It says promoting or encouraging homosexuality or the commission of an offense under this act. So we have to distinguish the question of identity and conduct.
Have they defined homosexuality?
They have not, which is one of the challenges that is being made in court. That there is a difference between homosexuality as an identity and homosexuality as behavior. The act conflates the behavior and the identity.
What's the difference?
That's so essentially the thing is for them that homosexuality in terms of the act and is not about who a person is as a homosexual, but rather the sexual contact that they have. That is the offense of homosexuality.
Ndu is asking you now.
What is the difference?
What's the difference between
the two?
And you asked me this question the last time as
and
well.
You didn't answer me then. So now here you are.
And let me answer that question.
No, can I ask you the same question?
Okay,
in the hope, I'm asking you the same question to ask you.
Yes.
Now, please answer.
That not all homosexuals engage in sexual activity, and even if they do, it is not within the context of what is prohibited in the law.
You see, why do we bring this discussion always to the point where we are not just discussing what has now become an act, what has become the law in Uganda, but we are discussing everything around it, and this becomes the focus. What, in your opinion, led to this particular member of Parliament bringing about this bill, and why is it that you think that it received the overwhelming support that it did?
Listen to President Museveni's comments just a few days ago. This is what he said. He said, if you are a homosexual and you just stay at home and mind your business, I have no issue with you. My issue is when you now go and look for another person or other people and you start either recruiting them or engaging with them in any way. You just be a homosexual by yourself at home quietly. That's what President Museveni said. Now,
so he has no issue with
distinction. He's making a distinction there between the identity of being a homosexual and the homosexual acts that are targeted within the context of this law. So he acknowledges even himself that, and he said after taking advice, isn't it? It was not that he had an epiphany. It's after taking advice that he said, look, I now realize that there are people who could be homosexuals and this is who they are. And when I say homosexual, of course, and when we're having using the word homosexual, it talks about the entire spectrum of LGBTQI plus folk. And of course, that presents its own issues, as it is smiling there. I know. But that notwithstanding, I would say that this distinction is there. You can't be a person without necessarily engaging in acts that may be associated.
And the president who signed this into law has come out and publicly said that yes, there's that distinction. If you identify, no issue. If you recruit, promote those acts, issue comes in. That's why you fall foul with the law.
And you see, okay.
I think it's problematic because, and initially, that identity is what was criminalized. And I think due to uproar, that is why it was amended now to now provide for the act itself. But it's very strange to say that I accept you to be yourself, but don't date anyone, don't get into relations with somebody. In itself, it already sort of brings out some sort of hate towards the community.
What kind of life do you lead,
how will
City?
they?
No.
City, if today
I want
okay,
to see how this brings about hate. Please explain it to me.
How can I say it is okay for you to be a straight person, but do not engage in any acts? And we are all human beings. We all have feelings that that we are born with. So now it is okay you stay in your house, but you cannot relate with people. In fact, this persuasion that they're talking about could be in the context of you probably trying to hit on somebody who you can then have a relationship with. So it's some sort of, it's fueling some hatred towards them.
Literally, very many African communities had a term that described what we're now calling homosexuals. For them to have it, it means there were people who were that way inclined.
Yes.
Now, the discussion...
Over centuries.
They've been there. And there's a way in which these people lived in those societies. There wasn't too much of a hoo-ha. Now, would you therefore say that a lot of what is being discussed has to do with external influences outside these countries, like, say, Uganda, where, for instance, you will find groups who have promotional material supposedly for education of children, but promoting same-sex marriages, same-sex activities, and that the promotion of this being made public, published, is what many people find offensive.
Or posing some kind of
Yes,
danger.
yes, and offensive in that it abrogates what they in their communities consider to be acceptable, and it's like it's being forced down their throats to accept, as opposed to what they had and what they've lived
It has
with.
not been an issue.
Yes.
Why is it being
It's being made an issue.
I think you have it right that there is external influence, but in a totally different way, because as it were, it has not been an issue, but the problem is that there is a serious politicization of this issue, and it is coming from America. It is coming from the West. It is coming from organizations that are funding these kinds of discussions.
Which ones?
For example, Family Watch International.
Anti-homosexuality?
Yes. That
are there
essentially-
organizations that are funding homosexuality?
I don't know if there are organizations that are pro-homosexuality, as it were, within the context of saying we need to have homosexuality established. But what it is, for example, giving the example of here is educational material, go and teach your children this. There would need to be evidence of the same.
There would need to be evidence on both sides of the spectrum.
Yes.
All right. But now we're saying there are, according to you, organizations who are putting their dollars behind making sure that these conversations don't take place, making sure that there is no promotion of homosexuality. On the other side of the spectrum, I mean, many could argue that there are organizations who are fighting for what they call the rights of individuals.
Of course, that is logical.
So
yes.
we're saying the same thing here, that as there are organizations that are saying that are against homosexuality, there are organizations who are pushing a particular agenda and would not mind for some of the promotional education material that we are seeing then being introduced to children.
I think this issue first touches on an emotive subject on teaching children, and that homosexuality can be taught. That, for example, you can have a pamphlet that you hand out to children.
Not taught. But that
normalized,
there are subliminal
amplified
messages that are put into this material that then children who read them or watch them then get to believe that this is part of life and that it is a normal, just to normalize it.
Is it not?
Is it? I'm asking the question.
Is it not? And there are homosexuals who are real people who live real lives.
No.
And who...
All homosexuals are real people.
Yes. So I'm wondering, is it not real that they are homosexuals?
I think you're missing the point. The point here is not, are they not real? If the majority of people were homosexual, we would not be having this discussion. We're having this discussion because people who have sex with people who are of the same gender are fewer. They are not many.
So they're a minority.
They are a minority.
Okay.
And it is called a deviation from what people refer to as normal. Okay? That is the reason why this discussion.
I think the use of the word normal is a little...
Have you seen how I phrased it?
What people consider as.
Yes. Yeah. I've phrased it carefully. Yes. Now, you see, a discussion such as the one we're having has to be honest. Otherwise, there is no need having
That's
it.
fair.
Right?
I think I'd want to focus on specifically, because we have all agreed that these are people who are living amongst us. And the reason why I think even Kellen gave the statement that you're referring to, Eric, is because of the issue of right to health. And statistics show, especially, let's just focus on Uganda alone, that gay men in Uganda and men having sex with men in Uganda are 28 times more likely to contract HIV and AIDS. Trans women in Uganda are 14 times more likely to contract HIV and AIDS. So our focus here is we are just trying to promote their right to health, because then if this is the population that is at highest risk of, for instance, HIV and AIDS, shouldn't we then be talking about how to protect, to promote their accessibility? Because studies have shown that then these persons, they delay or they do not even go to healthcare facilities because of the stigma, the discrimination that they face. And even if they are a minority of the group, even say they're 29% just of a number, they're still part of the larger community. The truth is, the same way heterosexuals have multiple sexual partners, the same thing with homosexual persons. So there's a risk that if we do not protect their human rights, including their right to health, that will affect the larger population at the end of the day.
Actually, studies show that people, men specifically, who have sex with other men, their level of, I'm going to use a rude word here, promiscuity is higher.
It's higher. It's
infinitely higher. And also...
Infinitely.
It is. I am actually going by statistics. I'm not making this from the...
Infinitely.
Yes, higher. Okay? And that...
Significantly.
And significant, and the one I just said, the difference is?
Infinity is a bit...
Infinite is a bit infinite.
Go on, City.
And that the likelihood of having risky sexual behavior, meaning having sex in the absence of protection, is also higher. Yes. Okay? Yes. There are all these statistics that exist, and there are all these facts and figures. But you see, when we dwell on facts and figures, we move away from the human person, who is the person we ought to be talking about. Because we are not protecting activities, we are protecting people. We are not talking about activities are irrelevant in the absence of the people who practice them.
That is true. I agree with you. 100%.
Given what I've just said, how does Kellen's position merge into this conversation with that in mind? And how do you then get to have a discussion where the individual, irrespective of what their sexual inclination is or preference is treated equally and is treated like every other person?
Exactly. And I think I'll start off by saying, the first, as you're saying, we are looking at this person as a human being, regardless of what they're doing, yeah? And one of the saddest part about this bill, Wakili mentioned, is about the imposition of a death penalty for acts that are referred to as aggravated homosexuality. Yeah, and human rights treaties have seen that when you're talking about imposing a death penalty, that's like arbitrary killing of this person. So you're killing somebody because, they have a certain sexual orientation. That's a huge violation of their human right. And even in terms of promoting hatred and violence towards them, the moment this conversation started about the bill, even before it was passed, there was an upsurge of violence against these persons. There, and even it spilled over to our country as well. Ukiona mwenzako ananyolewa, the methali. When your neighbor is, you just know it's coming to you next. So there's an upsurge of violence and hatred amongst them. We work very closely with these people, and they'll tell you the kind of violations they face. Number one, some of them have been subjected to what we call corrective rape, because some people think that, probably the reason why you don't have an opposite sexual partner is because you have not experienced sexual acts with a person, so they correctively rape you. Persons who have been arrested by the police have been subjected to acts, they are told to remove their clothes, and they're done very weird things in terms of checking their back, and this is huge gross violations. Now imagine that this now has been passed as a law. That was being done before that was even a law. So this is huge violation. We are promoting hatred. We are putting them out to be persons who are less of human beings than other people.
I want to bring back that external international angle, right? And I remember the number of times that President Uhuru Kenyatta was asked the homosexuality question by foreign press, either here, people who had accompanied Barack Obama in the visit to Nairobi, or when Uhuru went to, let's say, appeared on CNN and other media, and the question would always arise about Kenya legalizing homosexuality. And the response that Uhuru gave was that it's not an issue in our country right now. I don't have to discuss it because it's not an issue. It's not an issue that has come from the people that we need to actually have this conversation. When the people decide it's time for that conversation, they'll have it. Same question was asked of President Ruto within a month of assuming office as president, again by the same international media. Do you not see an angle where there's sort of like a push towards that direction? It's like we're being pushed. Can you people come up with a law that legalizes and acknowledges and accepts homosexuality? And if, like City is saying, these things have been here, they've never been an issue, why are you making it an issue?
I think there is a significant question on, because City said, let's talk about people, the kinds of lives that they lead, the kinds of challenges that they face. I think that, of course, there's a first thing, which is the health risks that people are exposed to and how that impacts the quality of life that they have. I think there are also larger questions of what kind of life does it mean to have when being in a relationship of some kind means that it is criminalized. And what does this mean that you have to be looking over your shoulder every single moment? We have, for example, people who are living in Busia, they are living in Mandera and everywhere, and they are homosexual. They were not influenced, taught, promoted to, or in any other way shown material that would lead them to be that way. This is how they were born. What is the question of how they live? And we have to look at it within the context of vulnerabilities that they face in terms of accessing work, in terms of just living their day-to-day lives without suffering violence or any other risks and attacks. We have to look at it within the context of, for example, minorities, and the fact that minorities are required to be protected. That is what our law says, that when you see vulnerable groups and when you see marginalized groups, then at the end of the day, the law requires that the state should protect them. And there are unique circumstances around being an LGBTQI plus person that are faced within the context of even accessing rights. We have, for example, children, and I'm working on right now a case in Kiambu where there was a girl who was expelled from school. Why? Because she was suspected to be a lesbian. A case just before that happened in another school. And the reality that people are not able to access education, they're not able to access various other rights and resources in the country as equal Kenyans. This is the kind of life that people live in fear, at risk, with less instead of equal. And to that extent, we are trying to figure out then how do we allow every single Kenyan, however way they whichever way they present themselves, to enjoy Kenya just as much as others do. And because we are all taxpayers, we all pay the tax. We are all participating in building the nation in different ways, working and so forth. So how do we work together to make the situation better? Now, if we are addressing it from the context of international influences, or for example the international context and the questions being asked to the presidents, of course it is within the context of the fact that in the village that City talked about, people were there and provisions were made for them, as you said, in that sense that they were recognized, acknowledged, and they had a way in which life worked. In Kenya, we have remained silent on this issue, so there is no way in which the thing works. So the question is, do we remain silent while others are at risk of violence or suffering violence, or do we have a discussion that allows people to be able to make provisions within the context of the law as it exists?
But the discussion issue. I see your organizations are up in arms against what's happening in Uganda. But I think in the context of discussion, Uganda is way ahead of very many countries in Africa because they've had a public conversation, recorded conversation on this particular matter. They are dealing with it. They're dealing with it going one way, but they're having a conversation about it. Is that not better than not having a conversation at all?
I think, Eric...
Because it appears like you do not want this law to be brought up. You want us to just remain quiet.
No. I think the law does something very specific, Eric, which is that the majority of this law is about criminalizing and then rehabilitating, changing you to be what you are not.
Yes.
That is the context in which the law exists. Now, the question is, are criminal sanctions the conversation that we should be having, or a way in which people better enjoy their rights and freedoms?
To me.
And at the end of the day, even a conversation that you have fits within a context. For Uganda, for Ghana, for Nigeria, we can easily say that there are organizations that have pushed these conversations. For example, in April, this law came at the beginning of May. Late April, there was a conference in Uganda with certain people there who had a particular conversation. And it was not just Ugandan members of parliament. There were Americans who were there. There were various other people who had this conversation and which led into the larger question of this anti-homosexuality bill. So it came from somewhere, but it did not come from Ugandans.
It's a conversation, however. It's a conversation. Just same way we cannot argue here today, Gilbert, that we do not know. That there are conversations that have happened for promotion of homosexuality and homosexual rights.
Right, let me give you
I want to understand
what you've been doing this morning, raising the issues of rights.
Yes.
We can call it that way. there are organizations that have called for meetings and all and have conversations about let's recognize that these people exist, that these people require rights. Those are conversations. It can't only happen in one way that, we can only have a conversation.
We had a Ghanaian MP here.
Yes, please.
Who talked about a grant that they had sought from the World Bank. And a slight clause that was added in that, which necessitated that they recognize the very thing we're discussing here. It's a large discussion, and there are many examples we can give.
But it exists.
But it exists.
Yeah. But anyway, we thank you for coming. This one is always a heated conversation. Always a pleasure having you here, Gilbert.
Thank you so much for having me.
Come again. Gilbert Mitula is an advocate of the High Court of Kenya. Dorcas is also a lawyer. She's a program officer, sexual reproductive health rights at Kalin. Good morning, 9 a.m.
Spice up your life.
Good morning, this is Newsweb Dennis Aseto. Two lawyers representing Pastor Paul McKinsey have dropped the ongoing case against the preacher. Lawyer George Kariuki and Alicia Komora, who were also representing 28 other suspects, ditched McKinsey, citing difficulties accessing him and his associates. Principal Magistrate Yusuf Shikana ruled that the suspects will be remanded at Malindi prison and those who are unwell will be taken to hospital.
The applications that have been made are the kind of which I propose. Council feel that they no longer wish to represent the respondents, then the best thing to do is to have them released from representing the respondents. Perhaps what the state can do is to reach out to the law society, perhaps identify advocates who can represent on a pro bono basis the respondents going forward. But for now, there is no lack of representation. At least we have Mr. Makatendo, who has indicated that he will continue representing them.
The political parties' disputes tribunal has thrown out the decision of Jubilee Party's internal discipline mechanism that had rubbished the leadership changes that took place in the party under the leadership of retired President Uhuru Kenyatta on May 22nd. The tribunal's chairperson, Desmond Nungo, has said that any other decisions given after the resolutions by the Kega team disputing the Kenyatta-led NDC be ignored. In the meeting, the Uhuru faction had expelled Iyala MP Kanini Kega-nominated MP Sabina Chege, Jimmy Angwenye, Naomi Shaban, among others. And the relief program catering for the vulnerable and famine-struck families across the country will require an allocation of 14 billion shillings relief in the 2023-2024 financial year. Revelations made by the East African Cabinet Secretary Rebecca Miano outlined that the funds are aimed to cushion close to 1 million people in 23 arid and semi-arid land counties and hotspots in 9 SL counties affected by drought. Miano was responding to Marsabit Senator Mohamed Chute on the floor of the House on the humanitarian emergency response program for food and non-food commodities provided to households affected by various disasters. The Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission detective apprehended 4 police officers who were allegedly caught extorting money from motorists plying Nairobi's outer ring road. They were apprehended at Kware Stage while engaging in the act. According to the anti-graft body, the 4 traffic officers had managed to collect a substantial sum of 15,820 shillings within a span of less than 2 hours. Much of the money confiscated consisted of denominations in 50 shillings, 100 shillings and 20 shilling notes. The EACC says it launched this operation in response to numerous complaints lodged by motorists and concerned members of the public. A petition has been filed challenging the introduction of unique personal identifier which aims at giving newborns in Kenya a distinct lifetime registration number. In court papers, Operation Linda Jamii argues that the government is contravening the constitution, adding that there was no public participation on introducing the UPI. The petitioners now want the court to bar the government from proceeding further with any acts and or process of rolling out the UPI, also known as digital ID. They argued that the government had already spent 11 billion shillings on the Huduma Number project, which was safer. Operation Linda Jamii calls on the government to leverage and build on the existing infrastructure provided for through the Huduma Number. And more than 100 people have drowned and more are missing after a boat carrying them down the river Niger in southwestern Nigeria capsized. The vessel was carrying around 300 passengers traveling from Kwara State to Niger State after a wedding. Search and rescue efforts are continuing, the boat capsized after part of the vessel collapsed, causing water to flood the boat. And scientists have super-engineered polio vaccines to prevent them mutating into a dangerous form that can cause outbreaks and paralysis. The oral vaccines contain weakened live polio viruses, and the genetic redesign locks them into the weakened state. The US and UK teams have now created upgraded vaccines against all three types of polio. However, better vaccines still need to reach every child in order to stop the disease. Polio can spread into the nervous system, causing paralysis. And the Greek Coast Guard released images of the crowded boat before it went down. Now, at least 79 people have died and more than 100 have been rescued after their fishing vessel capsized off the coast of southern Greece. But Greek officials and the International Organization for Migration say that hundreds more migrants may have been on board. The shipwreck is the deadliest of Greece this year. I'm Dennis Aseto. Good morning.
Okay, after 9 o'clock, and traffic actually has not been too much of a menace today. You'll be able to get where you're going right now without too much hold up on the Thika Superhighway. All right, as you're getting towards the CBD. On Limuru Road, much better than it was before. We're looking at some traffic on Wayaki Way right about now. And also on Limuru Road, as you further up Ruaka, coming in then towards United Nations Avenue and then out towards the CBD. Apart from that, you should be able to contend with whatever is happening on the roads through the morning. Still, speak to us on Spice FM KE on Twitter. Let's check around 9:30 and see whether that all has dwindled. Spice FM KE on Twitter.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latif, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room, the only way to start.
Go to Google Play Store, Apple App Store, download the 911 Group app, because you will need it one day. As sure as the sun rises from the east and sets in the west, at one point you will need some support. And if you need that support, let's say in rescue services, your vehicle's broken down, you're stuck somewhere, you need some support, you have an issue with security, you have 911 Group will sort you out if you just download the app and then you go to the app at that moment of need and you then raise them. It helps you basically to have an alarm button in the name of a phone. That's what it is. So when you press that button, it registers immediately at the 911 call center. They see, this is so-and-so who's registered with an account. They're called CT. CT is saying he's in distress. They reach out to you. CT, what's up? I need 1, 2, 3. They sort you out. Maybe you actually have a medical emergency and what you need is urgent help to be rushed to hospital. They will be able to sort you out. Maybe it's a vehicle that's broken down and you're stuck somewhere and sort you out. So just download. Please don't tell, don't say.
You know what you just described, Derek? Peace of mind.
Bas, that's it. Thank you.
Kusha.
Bas. If you want peace of mind, 911 Group app. Download it today. City?
Mm-hmm.
The proverb.
The proverb.
It's from Zambia.
He who was busy with two things drowned.
He who was busy with two things drowned.
Yes, he who was busy with one thing didn't drown.
It implies.
Yep,
Right.
it implies.
Even the one who was busy with three things
didn't drown because
Didn't
that
drown.
one didn't go anywhere.
He didn't get on the boat.
didn't
Didn't get on the three things.
Nothing.
They are busy. Yeah.
Nothing at all. A lot was happening. So today is 15th of June. It's a Thursday. On this day, the Cabinet Secretary for the National Treasury, Professor Njoroge, accompanied by his two principal secretaries, will go to Parliament this afternoon and not do what used to happen before 2010. Okay, where the Cabinet Secretary will go to Parliament and say this is what the government is going to do next year and this is the new law that takes place. I remember in the 80s when CT were teaching, I was a young man growing up, and I remember budget day was a big day. Everybody would be sitting around the radio and waiting to hear bei ya nini imepanda, because that's exactly what used to happen.
Yep.
The finance minister would go to Parliament and now start saying, because those were the days of price controls, right? He would say the price of maize flour is going up by X, the price of cigarettes is going up by Y, even going to the price of eggs.
Yep, they
so
would.
basically you would know on budget day is when you're knowing whether prices are going up, down, or remaining the same. That was the significance of budget day. Then over time, we started now having participation of Parliament, greater and greater participation of Parliament. And what then would happen is the finance minister, let's say in the 90s into the early 2000s, would go to Parliament. And what they would do is basically give a policy statement and then give the tax proposals, the revenue raising measures. And the revenue raising measures is where he'd say, I am proposing to raise X tax by X amount of money, so that we can raise by X amount or percentage, so we can raise X amount of money. And by the minister going to Parliament on that Thursday afternoon and making that declaration, some of it would become effective immediately. Midnight, bei ya pombe inapanda, because a minister alikuja akasema excise duty is going up, things like that. And it would be, now we have a constitution that says Parliament is the one that makes the budget. So the finance minister sends a proposal to Parliament, and Parliament then discusses it, and Parliament approves it. That's why now we have the CS sending various documents to Parliament ahead of time. The budget policy statement, which gives the policy direction of the government in the next 12 months. And then they come into the budget estimates where he starts saying, I'm proposing to spend 3.7 trillion shillings in the next year. And this is how much we're going to give this ministry, this department, this agency. And Parliament has to go through it item per item and say yes or no. And then he also, the CS for Treasury, comes with a finance bill and says, this is how I'm proposing to finance that 3.7 trillion shillings. Revenue measures, these are the taxation measures. I am proposing this, and Parliament is the one that says yes or no. So when you see the Professor Njoroge going to Parliament this afternoon, mostly what we expect is for him to speak of the policy direction and programmatic focus of the government over the next 12 months.
You know what is of interest in the years you speak of, Eric, is that there are people who would play this ping-pong game of trying to anticipate the commodities whose prices might be raised. So there'd be a shortage.
They'd start hoarding. Yes.
A couple of weeks before the budget day, certain items. Now, I always used to think to myself, what if you hoard and the price goes down?
Yes. As would happen many times. People are hoarding bread, nini, goes down. Unachomeka. Unachomeka. So Parliament is the one that is actually making the budget. Yesterday, they passed stage 2, the second reading of the finance bill. Basically, they accepted some of the amendments that were proposed by the Committee on Finance and National Planning. There was some big-time debate and then voting. And the recommendations of the Finance Committee were approved by a majority, more than double of the majority. More than
that
double
was present.
Yes, said yes. And then the others said no. There were many who were not present.
Where were they?
Out on other business.
Okay, let me ask you. students are going to sit KCPE in November,
Yes.
end of November, isn't it? For 3 days, crossing over November till December.
Yes, yes.
You prepare a whole 7 years of your primary education. Then now, in the first term of your 8th year, you finish the syllabus, right? Then in the second term, you start to revise from standard 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, like that, until the third term, the revision is complete. Then now you sit the exam. On the day of the exam, you now come and say, I was a bit busy, so I was not able to come, and so I failed the exam. Does that make any sense to you?
No.
Where were you? What other possible important thing could you be doing on the day that you have prepared for, that you've shouted about, that you've brought Kenyans into, up and down, making noise, shouting, doing this, that? What other more important thing would you have been doing on the day that 92 of you were not in Parliament? Where were you? What were you doing? Why? Were you sick? All of you were sick? What important thing was it that you needed to do that was not as important as being in Parliament to legislate on something that was going to affect the way that a government is going to spend money over the next 365 days? I don't get it, man. I don't understand.
You know, every so often, members of Parliament are engaged on parliamentary business in and out of Parliament. For example, as we speak, there is a parliamentary thingy-majiggy happening in Morocco, where Kenyan members of the National Assembly and senators are attending.
And there are 92 of them.
92 of them.
No. There are several, okay? Others are elsewhere. Maybe a certain committee on this and this has gone for a meeting. Remember the other day we had a committee member for health, Anthony Kibagendi, and he was telling us about a training that he had attended in Israel. And it was a rigorous training, right? As members of the health committee, this has been scheduled well in advance. You've been invited well in advance. You've scheduled to travel well in advance. And you've gone for this particular business because it's also important. So if you happen to be absent from Parliament, it's not necessarily because you were just sitting at home and
Eric,
watching it on TV and saying, Nimehepa usiwaambie niko.
No.
Not everybody.
Mba. No.
What?
Mba. What else would you have been doing if you're outside of the country and it was pre-planned? Okay, maybe somebody can give you some leeway and say, all right, this one was a bit engaged. But then all of you have been milling around Parliament doors for the last 3 weeks. All of you have been from one media house to the next talking about this, that, the other thing. You've all been engaged in this, in what you call has been public participation, in one of the singular most important things when it comes to legislation and representation on your part. Then you're suddenly missing? Absolutely not. Then that is a seriousness with which they take things, governance in this country and leadership. I'm sorry. There's very little that you're able to say that will convince me that there was something more important than how the government is going to spend money on the next 365 days in this country.
Please remember,
and it all rests on your shoulders as the legislature.
Let me remind you, this is the second reading. There is still a third reading.
Now, if this is any indication of what happened during the second reading, what will happen during the third?
See, that's the one where everybody will make sure they're present. Because the third reading is where you pass the bill or you reject the bill.
Exactly. And if you're behaving like this, when you've not even reached the part where you're supposed to pass the thing, where were you?
Now what are you saying?
Where were you? You're giving indication of
what she's saying?
He does.
I understand what she's saying perfectly.
What did she say?
Every time we discuss our members of Parliament, I have to belabor the process of trying to find good or trying to find any positive adjective by which to describe them. But the point you make is valid, because it isn't as though parliamentarians just go to Parliament, that's all they do the whole day long, the whole week long, the whole month long. There are places they go to. I understand all that. But the truth of the matter is those numbers are a bit daunting. 92 is many.
Come on, man.
Okay? If you said 5, 10, let's be generous. Let's even say 20.
Let's even say 30.
Yes, 92.
Out of 349.
Yes, exactly.
A woman minus
Almost
92.
A third. Almost a third.
Almost. See?
Almost a third.
30%.
My friend. 30% is what they remove from your salary, man. You say almost a third when it comes to
we are pitching a fit over 3%.
Come on,
now 30%. 10 times that amount. I mean, those numbers are daunting. We can talk around it as much as we like, but unfortunately, even if everything that you say, Eric, was true, the unfortunate thing, remember the story of the boy who cried wolf, Aesop's fables. There are far too many issues on which I, being a member of the public and a citizen of this country, have felt the parliament has dropped the ball. So it is a lot easier for me to believe that they've dropped it yet again, even if they haven't. I am more inclined to disbelieving that they're capable of anything good, even if they actually are. And by the same token, even when they do something which is positive, I'm likely to look for the most negative aspect of whatever it is that they've done. So, in this instant, as you say, there'll be a third reading.
Yes.
Let me just make your life easier, even if there was a fourth one, okay? Just for the sake of it, in case some people didn't make up their minds.
Then they say, let's turn everything.
So, yes, and they hadn't come back from Morocco. Okay, even that had happened, all right? You see, you cannot talk about intentions. Intentions become a reality when they're demonstrated. And we look at demonstration, all right?
Yes.
So, I will hold my horses for the time being, and I will wait for that third reading. But in the meantime, I would urge Kenyans who are
of goodwill,
yes, who are inclined towards interceding in prayer for this particular country, to focus their prayers on the members of parliament that we have in this country. Okay, that the good Lord may talk to them and touch their hearts, and that they may depart from the evil ways that end up disenfranchising the citizens who voted for them, because it's important. And while they're praying, they should also pray for the president and the deputy, because the prayers are not so that they can continue doing what they're doing. No. The prayer is so that they can provide whatever it is that the citizens voted for them to provide.
You know, I hear what you guys are saying, you know, and yes, there's the importance of the budget and discussion of budgets. There's the importance of your member of parliament being present when an issue as weighty as budget estimates is being discussed, because that's when you're basically saying how much the government is going to spend in the next year, how much it's going to borrow, okay? There's a big issue when your member of parliament is representing you adequately on matters of taxation, because that's what the finance bill is all about, how they contribute to that conversation about taxation, how they vote on the matter of taxation. Clear, it's all clear. But then there's also that issue of their level of participation and engagement. Are they absent from the house without reason, or are they absent from the house with reason? Some of them started going on to social media and other places to explain themselves and their absence. So, for instance, I saw Babu Owino explained. He has a case in court today. He had a meeting with his lawyer. He had planned it. And in his understanding previously, this matter, this report by the Finance Committee was to be tabled in Parliament. It was to have 2 days of debate in his understanding.
Okay.
Shock on him when he hears that the debate on that report is only going to be 1 day with a voting on the same day. And now he has a case tomorrow in court. He has a lawyer to go and engage with and, you know, discuss these matters with. And it's so he had to explain to his minority leader, Bwana Opiyo, and I'm sorry, boss, I will not be present in the afternoon because I have to do this. Is that not, somebody who is saying, look, there were circumstances that led me not to be present.
Do all of them have those kind of circumstances?
Many have.
You know, as I said, even if everything, all the 92 can actually explain justifiably where they were and what they were doing, it is not that they're being judged by. It's a precedence they have set with their behavior. It's decisions that this august house has made that I, as a citizen of Kenya, have felt these people are not representing me. They are representing God alone knows what, but I am certainly not in the God knows alone what. I am not there. Okay? So
it is not you that represent.
Yes, so now when you come to a situation such as this, and there are 92 of them absent, as I said, I am inclined to disbelieve. I am inclined not to think of anything positive. That is my inclination because of my lived experience when it comes to the decision-making process of members of this august house. That's really it. You see, when you have a discussion such as the one we have, I saw in the papers that Azimio are saying that they are going to produce their version of a budget. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
This question, we have asked it again, so let me ask it again. What is so difficult about having a shadow cabinet? What is the issue? The members of parliament who represent Azimio who have come here have told us about parliamentary rules. We get it. That's parliament. Who says when you have a shadow government, it has to be there must be parliamentarians? Where does it say? Azimio has many members who are not in parliament, and they're very capable people. And if it isn't people who are politically inclined, you're talking about people, for instance, who understand finance.
Yep.
We have many people in this country who understand and who would be able to present a case that would say, look, this is what we offer.
Yeah.
The opportunity for Azimio to tell us what they would do differently is going as we see. It's passing. We're watching it passing. It's like that long train. When it starts, you're just seeing it. You're just seeing it. Then all of a sudden it's gone.
Boop, it's
gone.
And there you are left with the track, looking at the track.
And then they're going to find reason to explain to us what they were doing. And then they're going to tell us to go for demonstrations.
Yeah.
Yet, an opportunity that has presented itself where they can actually demonstrate that they know what they're doing. They've claimed this government is clueless. Okay, be clueful. Tell us exactly, yes, how it is you would be able to do this.
And this was another opportunity to come out with the robustness and vigor that they've been talking and shouting about. It's going to be very difficult to convince people otherwise tomorrow and say, look, and for me, it really doesn't matter on which side you are on. It doesn't matter which side you are on. To then come out
as long as you're a member of parliament.
Yes. And then you say, on a day when something mattered, and that's it. If it is setting precedent, and it's not even at third reading yet, it is setting precedent for what is going to happen in the future. And that is how seriously they take it. Are you kidding me? For something that, again, I go back, for something that is going to affect how you will spend money, that will have a direct impact on how Kenyans are going to live over the next 365 days, how they will be taxed, how they will operate within the boundaries of this country, how you will operate with other people outside of Kenya, everything depends right here. What other possible thing could have been so important that you say, okay, on this day, it is necessary for me to be doing that thing? And here you are, the test of your representation, your legislation, your oversight was right there. So if this is how you're doing and it's only second reading, what will you do when it is third? Or will you have a eureka moment when the scales will fall off your eyes and then you come back for third reading and say, okay, it is actually important that we be here? No. From the very beginning, you've been shouting that, yes, we can do, okay, here it is. Or are you actually accepting that indeed this is a house that is under capture? Because you being away is an answer. There's yes, there's no, and there's your absence, which is an answer. It is an answer. Now it is up to us to decipher what that answer is. But it's flowing in the minds of many people right now that maybe you were absent by choice.
Of course they were absent by choice, but you don't every time we have this discussion of capture,
it's not consequences of going to hospital going to courts. Those are not the choices I'm talking about.
Or being kidnapped. No, that's not what we're referring to. And also, it points a finger at the executive. This has nothing to do with the executive. No. It has to do with the individual members. If indeed they are susceptible to influence, it has nothing to do with the executive. Executives around the world do exactly that. They are always trying to manipulate their respective parliaments to do what they want. Those who set up this system understood that human nature being what it is, when somebody is in a position of authority, there are certain things they will do to ensure that they continue that authority and get the things they want done. Oh, it was understood. So if someone is susceptible to influence and succumbs to that influence, it has nothing to do with the executive. No.
It's not their behavior or lack thereof or blah, blah, blah.
No, meteorological department tells you we are going into the rainy season, okay? And it starts raining. What do you think rainy season means? that it's going to rain. Okay? Then you start talking about, there's mud on the road. What did you think exactly?
What did you expect
Yes.
when it rains?
Yes. And on the day it rains, and you said, I brought my umbrella yesterday, it didn't rain. And then today it has rained. And
now here I am today.
And then what do you want to blame? The umbrella, the Met Department?
Then you come and say, don't worry, tomorrow when it rains, if it rains, I'll come with my umbrella.
Yes.
Here you had a chance. Here you had a chance to not be rained on because everybody told you, look, you can even feel the drops. They're there. Then you decide, okay, maybe not.
It's not raining now, so it's okay. And then you walk out of your house.
And you see the effects
it
of
starts
rain.
raining. And it doesn't matter what you do. Even if you walk back to the house, you'll be rained on. If you stay on the same spot, you'll still be rained on. And yet you had an opportunity not to be rained on. No.
So several members of parliament were absent yesterday as this vote was taking place. And this vote was to either accept or reject a report of the National Assembly Committee on Finance and National Planning, which was saying, members, please, let's pass this finance bill, but also let's pass it with these amendments as we propose them. That's what they were discussing yesterday, and that was the vote. Several members were not able to vote. Some were suspended. For example, the Honorable Rosa Buyu, suspended. TJ Kajwang, suspended. Sabina Shege, suspended. Others were absent. And several members were not in parliament because they were absent for one reason or the other. When now it says
but
absent.
But why were they suspended again?
They had
You remember that time when there was an issue?
When they had a discussion?
About Sabina.
About Sabina? Yes. So why are they suspending Sabina and the discussion was about it?
See, it's like when there's a technical foul given in basketball and two of you are fighting. See, two of you are fighting. Out of you, both.
But were those people fighting or were they attempting to fight?
They caused a fracas. I mean, the speaker has already done a ruling and then you're standing there.
Out.
Please, can you go and sit there?
Take a chill pill.
Yeah. Tonge badai. So that badai happens
Has not come yet.
Yeah, so they were suspended. But there were many members of parliament who were absent as well. If we look at those that voted, 176 voted yes to that bill, 81 voted no to the bill, and many other MPs, over 90 members of parliament, were not present to cast their votes. Now, if we subtract those ones that have been suspended, so they could not even enter the chamber, even if they wanted to, where were the others? That's a question today. That Ndu is saying, Apana, these people have let us down completely.
Don't come
Do
to us
you
tomorrow.
agree with Ndu? I don't. CT does. Let's hear you. 0719 012 600 after this break.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Yay, Mom! This! Oh, look! It's so beautiful! Mom, can I pick one?
Yes, pick. We need to win the car.
In fact, free Wi-Fi and the convenience of the Sarit prepaid parking card and gift vouchers. Don't miss out on this great shopping experience. Sarit at 40, celebrating our journey together. Bro, the game is about to start. Let's go. Yeah. But just give me a minute, man. Malize. What's up? Who are you chatting with? Hey, I'm just filing my returns, then we bounce. Because I hope you remember the deadline is June 30th. The game will start, banner. Where, it doesn't take time. And yep, I'm done. That was fast. Show me how you've done yours, because I don't want to pay any penalty. Just log into itax.kra.go.ke and file your returns. And if you don't know how to, just go to KRA's YouTube page and watch a tutorial. It's that easy. Allah, filing returns is easier than cooking. Easy peasy, mse.
Kenya Revenue Authority reminds all PIN holders to file their 2022 tax returns on or before 30th of June 2023. For assistance, call 0711 099 999 or email callcenter@kra.go.ke. You can also visit any of the KRA service centers or any Huduma center countrywide. Kenya Revenue Authority. Tulipe ushuru, tujitegemee. It is time for you to take your farming business to the next level. no matter how big or small your farming venture is. Agritech Africa and GrainTech Africa are inviting you to come and learn the latest technologies in agriculture, dairy, livestock, poultry, and grain farming. Over 150 exhibitors from all over the world will be at the KICC Nairobi from June 15th to 17th to show you how agriculture is being done globally. Entry is free. You cannot afford to miss this.
Bro, the game is about to start. Let's go. Yeah. But just give me a minute, man. Malize. What's up? Who are you chatting with? I'm just filing my returns, then we bounce. Because I hope you remember the deadline is June 30th. The game will start, banner. Where? It doesn't take time. And yep, I'm done. That was fast. Where? Show me how you've done yours, because I don't want to pay any penalty. Just log into itax.kra.go.ke and file your returns. And if you don't know how to, just go to KRA's YouTube page and watch a tutorial. It's that easy. Allah, filing returns is easier than cooking. Easy peasy, say.
Kenya Revenue Authority reminds all PIN holders to file their 2022 tax returns on or before 30th of June 2023. For assistance, call 0711-099-999 or email callcenter@kra.go.ke.
18 degrees, highs of 25 and lows of 15. It's 19 and sunny in Nakuru, highs of 25. We'll see highs of 24 in a mostly cloudy Nyeri at 18. It's 18 and sunny in Eldoret, highs of 23 and 26, and sunny in Mombasa, highs of 29. We'll see highs of 29 as well in Malindi, where it's sunny at 27. 23 and mostly sunny in Kisumu, highs of 28, and 27 will be the high in a partly sunny Kakamega at 22. 23 and sunny in Kampala, highs of 28 and lows of 18, while Dar es Salaam is sunny at 27. We'll see highs of 30 and lows of 21. It's 9 degrees and mostly sunny in Johannesburg, highs of 19 and lows of 4. And heavy rain continues to come down in Lagos at 25, highs of 28. 32 will be the high in a mostly sunny Kinshasa at 22, and at 35 it's sunny in Beijing going into early evening, highs of 37, and 29 will be the high in Paris today. The summer still coming. 26 will be the high in London, and at 18 New York is clear coming into Thursday, highs of 26 and lows of 18.
Spice up your life.
Okay, out of traffic hour, more or less. It hasn't been too bad today. Okay, where are you? If you're on Limuru Road, then you still have to contend with a little bit of it coming from United Nations Avenue, coming in towards Wangari Maathai. Then you go through towards Westlands or the city. You should be all right there. The Thika Superhighway also that's fizzling out. So it's much better now. Langata Road has cleared up. Industrial area, Lunga, Lusaka, Jogo Road, folks are doing that thing still. So some time before that clears up. But then into Thursday, we should be all right. Through the day, let's talk on Spice FM, KE on Twitter.
Business news with Spice FM.
I'm Dennis Aseto. 9 in 10 Kenyans are against the Finance Bill 2023, which seeks to introduce new taxes on Kenyans. 3 out of 4 Kenyans also said that their income is insufficient to meet their needs. This is contained in the latest data from the Center for Fiscal Affairs titled State of the Nations. 60% of Kenyans agreed that inflation and the cost of living were top priorities for Kenyans. President William Ruto's administration is seeking to pass a new law that will see Kenyans pay more taxes. Safaricom has added 5G networks to 3 more counties, allowing customers to enjoy fast internet services. Turkana, Trans Nzoia and Narok residents can now access the 5G network. The telco has now connected only 3 counties in the country with ultra-fast internet services. It has also added 150 5G active sites, pushing the total number to 368 countrywide. Tea exports from Kenya dropped by 26% in the first quarter of this year, weighed down by the crisis in Sudan and forex challenges in Pakistan and Egypt. Data from the Kenya Tea Board shows that tea exports fell from 135 million kilograms to 99.8 million kilos, while exports to Khartoum decreased by 59%. Orders from Pakistan fell by 48%. Minet Kenya has been approved by the Retirement Benefits Authority to manage the National Social Security Fund's Tier 2 contributions. The RBA's approvals now allow the insurer to provide pension administration services to employers who would like to opt out of Tier 2 NSSF contributions and channel their remittances into a scheme certified by the RBA for the purposes of receiving these contributions. Minet Kenya CEO Sami Muthui observed that the company is ready to offer its many years of expertise in pension administration to secure the future of the country's working population. The Kenya Electricity Generating Company, KenGen, became the first public utility to confirm attendance at the inaugural Africa Energy Forum. KenGen, a leading global geothermal developer, will profit from its unwavering loyalty as Kenya's capital, Nairobi, opens its doors to the event, and a delegation of global innovators, decision makers, financiers, ministers, and future game changers. For Spice Business, I'm Dennis Aseto.
Spice FM Business.
Are you ready? Okay.
Spice FM. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
20 minutes.
Mornings.
Continue this conversation. So yes, there was heated debate in the National Assembly yesterday. The report of the Committee on Finance and National Planning with regards to the finance bill. It went through the second reading with a majority voting for it yes. 176 members voting yes, 81 voting no, more than 90 members absent. For one reason or the other. Ndu is saying, surely, this is a very, very important bill. If you just follow the pulse of the nation, this is one thing that Kenyans were right up there with. And they were saying, this matter is a big one. It's a second reading. There's going to be a third reading on this particular bill. But 90 members of parliament being absent, where are they? That's what he's asking. Walikuwa wapi? Walikuwa wapi? And I'm saying, I know, for example, there are members of parliament, National Assembly and Senate who are in Morocco attending some meeting arranged well in advance, traveling well before yesterday.
Okay.
There are some who may be here or there on such similar other engagements, still parliamentary work. Okay.
I say kpata, they didn't pass 20.
There were others who were suspended. Now those ones we know. Suspended by the speaker and told you've been suspended from being in a parliamentary sitting for X number of times. Suspended. Okay? Others, for one reason or the other, Babu Owino had a meeting with his lawyer because he has a case today. And he needed to, engage with the lawyer, And it was a long meeting. In fact, even by 10 p.m., he was still in the meeting with his lawyer. So the thing is, your issue is, where were these members on such an important matter?
Absolutely.
It's about representation. There should be no taxation without representation. Your representative is not in the house to discuss your taxation measures. Where are they?
Then over the next 365 days, they want to come and be talking to you and telling you, meh. When it was important for you to be there, you were not there. Then now, what do you want to come and talk to me about?
Meh. MMA is important.
How many members of parliament voted yes?
176.
Okay. How many voted no?
81.
How many were absent?
92.
It means that even if they were there and they voted no,
still.
And that's why I told you that I'm not even talking about the numbers per se, because let's just say that all of them were there. It was then 176 to 172. Abi?
Mm-hmm.
Let's just say all the ones that were absent would have voted no.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it would have looked like.
Yes.
176.
The vote would still have been lost.
Yes, but your absence shows something more than the number. Your absence shows that there is something more important that you were doing than actually coming and representing the views of the people, that you went all over the place shouting and spending millions to say, give me that position to represent you. Your absence is a slap in the face to those people. Your absence on a day when something was very important, even if, and that's why I said, it doesn't matter what side these 92 people were on or not. but that it shows in such high numbers that, you know what, okay, yeah, well, it doesn't really matter. I'll come for the next one. If there's no next one, I see, we'll catch up later.
Do I have your permission to quote you?
Now?
Yes, right now.
Yeah.
Do I have your permission?
Yes.
You know, if people keep telling you you're insignificant and they don't care about you, please pay attention.
Exactly. That's again, they are telling you that we really don't care. It's not about you.
You people
and here's another
opportunity.
I beg you.
Hush.
And this is another time.
Yes.
If you doubted, you see those things I've been telling you for the last how many years has it been, CT?
It's 3.
Thank you. Those things that I've been saying. If there was a dictionary, and it was, in fact, let's say Pictionary, and it needed pictures, you would now take the picture of those empty seats in Parliament yesterday next to your leadership does not care about you. That would be the picture next to that thing. Audiovisual representation of your people don't care about you.
There's an English phrase.
They keep telling you every day.
The English language has words like due to unavoidable circumstances. Please internalize those words.
As a blanket
Let's
cover
go to
where
the
you
calls.
don't want to give the real reason.
Let's go to the calls and hear what people have to say. Members of the public. Due to unavoidable circumstances, your member was not present yesterday during a crucial vote.
Due to unavoidable circumstances, come 2027,
maybe they were
boot you
sick.
out.
Maybe they were unwell.
Yeah.
Boaz. No, let's start with Robert. Robert in Nandi.
Yeah. How are you?
Mambo namna gani?
Tuko sawa lakini ugonjwa tu. We are okay but we are naturally sick. Lakini by the way, how is Ndu our lady there?
Ndu is not
Ndu,
okay.
Our lady there. What is happening? I hear she's complaining so much.
She's just complaining.
One person.
She's unhappy.
She's just unhappy.
I hear.
What do you think,
now,
Robert?
Let me just say we have a very bogus opposition in this country. Thoroughly bogus, useless, bure kabisa.
Why?
Yeah, because look at it like if they are even to vote no, so what are they offering?
What's their alternative?
Yeah, because even just starting that say the levy thing of housing to a tax here, just explaining that there's nowhere that you'll be refunded taxes. Hakuna. So they are voting no. What are they offering? Because at this moment, I think these are just guys who are riding on, if you fail, they point that and they're able to ride that on the masses for popularity. For now, I think we have no opposition. We are just done. And I think this is a wild beast moment, Hii tumeingia kwa maji. Those who will swim across, well and good. Those who will be eaten by crocodiles, shauri yao. Those who will drown, shauri yao. Tuende mbele.
Thank you, Robert. Have a good day.
You too.
You too. But Boaz in Nairobi, good morning.
Good morning, Eric.
Good morning, Boaz.
Good morning to everyone else, Ndu and City.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah, I think thanks for really bringing this to the focus of the public, because what is at stake right now is actually the state itself. Because you see, a state functions when the citizenry are alive and active and are happy and indeed are saying that what is being done in our own interests. But I think what we have observed is the fact that our agencies that should be helping us on oversight, on legislation, and even in budget processes have actually been totally annihilated or completely compromised. So Parliament in its entirety, as we speak now, is actually not dependable. And any Kenyan looking upon them to help us wade through these murky waters is actually misplaced in terms of thinking. I would suggest that this is the time that we should be invoking our Article 1 rights, the sovereignty of the people. And the fact that we do delegate responsibilities to these people, but because they are not able to address or to discharge that mandate effectively, because some of them even fear, and that's why they stay away from Parliament, because you remember the president some time back told them, I'll be watching you. So, if they were being watched, so some would rather let me stay away. So I think this is the right time for Kenyans to say, we are recalling back that responsibility of passing the budget, because the budget is what will make us function as a state.
We hear you.
And when we say that, I think then Kenyans need to recreate a mechanism of resolving this. Even if it means Kenyans themselves saying, let us agree with 1, 2, 3 things, let us throw out 1, 2, 3 things, let us, for example, let us refuse to pay 1, 2, 3 things. How many people will they arrest? If you are going to force us into taxation, which does not make sense, I think Kenyans have got a responsibility to say no. So my point is just one. Let us recall that power we delegated for passing the budget, the financial bill and the budget. Let us recall that power and tell them they can deal with other matters. But that one we are recalling. Thank you.
Thank you, boss. Thomas in Kitale, good morning.
Good morning.
How are you doing?
Eric, I'm doing fine. Eric, Do City.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I concur with Boss 100%. Actually, it's just like taking everything out of my mouth. Ruto was playing and is still playing a long game. Even before he took the oath of office, he had already started poaching people from the other side. And remember, we don't have an opposition in this country. What we have is the majority and minority. And this is what they said in the previous, in the Constitution. But that was not the intention of the makers of the Constitution. They wanted us to have a robust opposition. Now, this process, they're saying that the 92 of them were missing. They were scared because they're preserving themselves. Okay, the moment Ruto said that wale ambao watapinga nataka kuwajua, what did the speaker do? He decided to have an audible vote instead of the secret. Kama ingekuwa ile secret, wengi wange show up. This process ya demonstrations that Raila may fail.
That's what ended up happening, Thomas. First, there was acclamation. And after acclamation, there was division because those many, at least 81 members stood up and that makes the speaker say, all right, so we can have division. And then now they went into the second mode of voting in Parliament, which is you cast your ballot directly. There's nothing like secret ballot in Parliament.
Okay, and remember,
there's record. You log in, so there will be a record of how you voted.
All right. But the other 92 were not aware that this will happen later on.
Let's just assume they didn't know.
They didn't know that this will happen. And remember, Silvanus Osoro had already whipped 50 Azimio MPs. And he came out publicly and said, 50, I've already gotten 50 in my pocket.
Kabisa.
So now what my suggestion is, this maandamano protest has to be people originated, yani tuanzishe sisi wenyewe, then government will see. I'm not saying an uprising or anything, no, just to show our dissatisfaction.
We hear you.
And that's when they will listen.
We hear you.
But if kama maandamano tu ni Nyanza peke yake, nobody will care. But if it's everywhere, Rift Valley up to Central, everywhere.
Yeah, you. Thank you, Thomas.
Thank you. Have a good day, gentlemen and lady.
You too. Mwafrika in Embu.
Hey, hello, Chief. How are you?
Salama kabisa.
Say hi to my friend Charlie and Ndu.
Joseph, habari yako?
Salama sana ndugu. I really enjoy your program, bana. You're the only guys who are making sense to Kenyans these days.
Thank you, sir.
Joseph, thank you very much.
Yes. Now, Charlie, remember we were discussing the other day.
Yes, we were.
Our problem is not that we don't have leaders. We don't have leaders. These people we elect to go to Parliament, they go there to look for their jobs. Mshahara. You will find that most of our parliamentarians are the laziest and the loudest people in the village. not the intellect of the village. Ule anajua kupiga kelele sana kijiji ndio anachaguliwa ajili ya kiherehere yake. And you can see, by the way, they do have no clue of what is going on in Parliament. They do not know anything about this finance bill. How do we, for example, do they have people who train them about how to go through these processes? If you look, we were told somebody wrote on social media yesterday that these guys had been paid. Are we together?
Yes, we are.
Yeah. Somebody had said these guys were being given 1 million each to vote down the bill. Now, when you look at this, there seems to be some truth because none of the Kenya Kwanza MPs went missing. But if you look at all these guys, they're Azmios. Can they tell us otherwise that they are representing their own interests or they are representing the interests of the people? The other day, we had a guy who came to your studio telling us he's actually supporting the removal of a corruption bill. He has not told his constituents this is how it's going to benefit them. This is how it's going to help us. Right? These people, some of them are for the interest. And I'm sorry, I'll be brave enough. When you're removing something like corruption bill, look at the people who are heading the top parastatal bodies or top corporates in this Kenya. You are giving them a carte blanche. These are the people, I'm sorry to say, and I'm not being trouble. We know what happened during Moi time. Our corporates were looted, zero. Now we come over, somebody from, in fact, my neighboring MP comes over and says, from the member corruption, so what do I be? I'm sorry, our country is in a lot of problems, but it is our own making. We choose the loudest man in the village. Asante sana.
Asante sana. Have a good day.
Same to you guys.
Nicholas.
Hi, Eric.
Good morning.
Good morning, sir. Hi, Ndu.
Good morning.
Good morning. And this is Nigerian Viper. Yeah, no.
Nigerian Viper.
Don't give these guys ammunition.
Yes, Nicholas.
No, I'm a cab driver. I'm a cab driver.
Yes.
I've ensured all my listeners, all my customers listen to you guys because you're doing a very wonderful job.
Asante.
Yes. Now, just a quick one. I don't know why we people are still complaining about these guys in government right now. I remember the president himself saying that, not the president, but his advisor, that is Devin Lee, saying that they're not about fighting corruption. So they'll ensure that, in other words, he was trying to tell us, the corruption will go on, but they'll still look for more money. And they're still doing it right now. They've changed now the narrative. Now it's not a levy about the housing tax. You salaried people, you'll have to pay for our houses, which you're wondering how you get the housing, and you're not a salary.
Yeah.
We are that stupid, man. But anyway, a time will come, guys will rise up and we'll come back to our senses. And another thing I've just remembered, it's like these guys, the hearsays that we've been listening to and the rumors. You know, as a cab driver, you hear lots of stories that as politicians go to Waganga, you know. I hope Kinandu will understand this.
Yes, he does.
So we are like Tumerogwa, you know.
Oh.
That we can't even tell the truth. You'll find
we hear you, Nicholas. Thank you. I'm going to pick one more call. Before we conclude, and that's Zachary, who's been on hold. Zachary, good morning.
Oh, good morning. Good morning, everyone there. And let me say this point here.
Yes.
Point one. There is no one who's setting a God to a shop. He said that she went down to Givugori, the whole of Givugori constituency. That was a lie. Like Mr. Arakeri said, that's a lie.
Do you come from Githunguri, Zachary?
He's from Gatondo South.
No, I mean, they are my neighbors, and I talk with them a lot, okay?
More than she does.
So, that one is a lie.
Okay.
The second point, if you go around the country, especially here on the ground, you would see the soberness of Mr. Ruto's and Mr. Gachagwa's policy of subsidizing production.
Okay.
Very soon, there are a lot of rain that's coming down. Our maize and the basic foods are going to ripen.
Very good. Point number 3.
Production has been. Point number 3. When Mr. Kibaki came, I was around there and you guys were around there. We said, oh, we got this guy is coming to save us and to salvage us from our problems. Now he's telling us to pay tax. That everybody must work. We despise him. But later, we saw the result.
Fruits of our labor.
This is what Mr. Ruto and Mr. Gachagua are saying. And I started following her way back in 205 during the referendum.
Zachary, our time is up. The 3 points are made. Asante sana. Asante. Have a good one. Thank you for all the conversations. Thank you for calling in and for tuning in to Kenya's biggest conversation today. It's 10 a.m. Have a lovely day. We'll see you tomorrow, Friday.
Spice up your life.
Good morning.